exclusive today. The U.S. Department of Labor is investigating HelloFresh. It is over allegations that the popular meal kit service employed migrant children at a cooking and packaging facility here in the Chicago area as recently as this summer. The facility in question is located in Aurora on Indian Trail. It's a Factor 75 facility, which was acquired by HelloFresh in 2020. An immigrant rights advocacy group that helped report the matter says this involves at least 6 teenagers, some of whom migrated from Guatemala. They were found working night shifts at the facility, and documents apparently show that the Labor Department is also investigating whether Midway Staffing, an agency that hires employees to work at the facility, also violated federal child labor rules. A spokesperson for HelloFresh telling ABC News in a statement today, quote, "We have zero tolerance for any form of child labor, and we have taken action to ensure no minors perform work in or have access to our facilities." HelloFresh says it has terminated its relationship with Midway Staffing. Midway Staffing did not respond to a request for comment.
Well, imagine that. Liberals and anyone who's argued with me over the last 8 years and talked shit or whatever, I want you to strap in because the next 4 years, you're not ready you're gonna look like a fucking bunch of retards. Everything I've said for the last 8 years is all gonna come out. It's all gonna be revealed. You're going to realize that I've been right all along. I told you. They bring people here, they let these people come in, and the reason they want them to come in is for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is these rich CEOs, y'all hate CEOs so much. We'll talk about that later. You hate them so much, you want to kill them in the street and everything, but at the same time, you support policies that allow them to hire children from other countries to come in and work under the table. And it's funny, it goes through a staffing agency. Of course it does, because then HelloFresh can just go, well, we didn't know. I mean, we didn't, it's the staffing agency. It's genius to have a middleman. It's so smart. But this is all so they're all doing this. And it's all going to come out. It's all going to come out. This is what you support as a liberal. All the virtue signaling, all the bullshit is about to blow up in your face because by the end of this 4 years, everyone's going to know that you clowns are losers. You support evil shit. You're everything you say about everybody else. It's you. It's you. I've been saying it. I called on you motherfuckers a long time ago. I've seen your evil already. And I've just been trying to tell everybody else, you people, I don't give a fuck what you think about Republicans. I don't care about any of that. Democrats are evil. The voters, not just the politicians. I'm talking about the average, everyday voter is evil. There's a segment of our population that is demented in the fucking head and doesn't give a shit and just wants a virtue signal and pretend to be better than everybody. But the reality is they're evil. They have evil thoughts in their head. They do evil things out in the open. So imagine what they do in secret. Imagine the kind of shit they do on the internet in secret, the shit they watch. I mean, look how many of them get caught with child pornography. These are sick people. These are sick, sick fucking people. And they project it onto everybody else. And when their enemies get power, they're like, oh, fuck, they're going to put us in camps. They're going to do that because that's what they want to do to you. They want to put you in a camp. They want to kill you. They want to torture you. They legitimately hate you. They want to do these things. They're evil people. They get off on it. But fortunately for everybody else, they're retarded and they just can't seem to, over time, maintain power. They can't just, because it's just too dumb. They're too fucking dumb. And it's all going to come out the next 4 years. They're terrified of that FBI, that guy getting in the FBI, because he's already said he's going to reveal. He's first of all, he's going to reveal all the how many feds were there at January 6th. That's all going to come out. That's one of the first things that's going to come out. We're going to be done with January 6th here very soon because all them people's getting pardoned. Number one, and you're going to find out that there was tons of FBI agents there. You're going to find out a lot of shit. And liberals ain't going to want to talk about it. Just like they don't want to talk about COVID. They're not going to want to talk about January 6th. It's going to be hilarious that they're not going to want to talk about that anymore. You're going to want to talk about it for the first time in a long time. You're going to want to talk about it. And then we're going to come full circle on that. That's another fool. It all comes back around on a liberal. The liberal acts a fool, says a bunch of shit, but it always does a circle all the way around and smacks him in the back of the head. I've seen it at least fucking 100 times at this point. And January 6th, all the yapping, all the bullshit coming right back on them. All the arguing they did, all the fucking bullshit. Notice none of them show up anymore. They're done. They're done. They don't want to argue anymore. They don't want to debate anymore. They want to troll. The few that are left just want to troll and cry out for attention. There's no serious conversations to have with these people anymore. These people are losers. And every single day they get slapped around. More stuff keeps coming out on them. They're complete fucking clowns. Support child labor. But I already knew there was child labor. It came out fucking months ago that they lost 300,000 fucking children. Just missing. Nobody knows where they're at. Well, I'll tell you where they're at. They're at fucking factories working for fucking nothing. Because it's better than the shithole country they come from. It's better sitting in a factory as a fucking 12-year-old or whatever than living in some dump country that you can't even call a dump. Oh, it's so racist and everything. Well, then why do they leave then? Idiot. It's a dump. What's racist about it? I know what places in this country that are full of white people and they're fucking dumps. God, grow up. I've decided I'm blocking all these people from now on. 2025, I'm making some changes. I'm blocking retards. Like, if you can't act like an adult, if I feel like you're a child, I'm blocking you. Just know that. I'm not having a conversation with you no more. I'm not fucking arguing with you. I'm blocking you. So if you say some dumb, childish, stupid, retard shit, I'm just gonna block you. You ain't worth my time talking to you. You fucking 12 years old. Most likely, because that's what you sound like. What was this tweet I made today? And this guy replied to it. It's the dumbest thing I've ever. What kind of reply is this? It's retarded. These people are fucking retarded. Brain dead. I'm telling you. And I'm done with this. If you send me shit like this right here, I got to screenshot it. I'm fair warning to you right now. If you send me shit like this, block. I'm done with you. I'm done with this nonsense. Nothing I said. Look what I said here. I said Kyle Rittenhouse shot a pedo. Y'all was rioting, outrage. Or he was rioting. Y'all had outrage about it. Some CEOs walking down the street get shot in the head. And y'all decided you're cheering. Said you're very dangerous people. You're brainwashed to a level. I don't think you can come back from it. Some of you are just gone. You're gone. And it's only a matter of time for you hurt somebody, kill somebody, whatever, because you're unhinged. You're fucking unhinged. And this guy replies, you don't see any issue with how health insurance companies are run. What the fuck that guy do with what I just said? What the fuck does that have to do with what I just said? Nothing. Literally nothing. It's an obvious bait troll comment to get attention. Well, here's the last bit you're going to get from me because I'm blocking you. You're retarded. Quit clogging up my mentions with your retarded behavior. Grow up. Who does this? Who talks like this? You don't see any issues with how healthcare companies... I didn't even mention healthcare companies in this fucking tweet. What are you fucking talking about? I didn't even mention healthcare companies. I didn't even use the word healthcare. I didn't put the word insurance, nothing. What are you talking about? So, because I don't think a guy should be executed in the street for being a CEO of an insurance company, that's what you take from my tweet. Are you retarded? I'm done with this type of arguing. This behavior, this way you all try to argue, is gay. Childish gay retardation. This is what it is. And this is how you all argue, just like this. There's a perfect example of it. That's why I screenshotted it. It's a perfect example of how you children argue. You think you're like, I don't know what you think you're fucking doing here, but it's the retarded. It's not worth having trying to have some real debate with you about this topic and get into the details of all this because first of all, I'm not even talking about that. I ain't mention any of that. I'm not talking about insurance. I'm not here talking about insurance companies and how they operate. I didn't even mention that. And you're trying to have a debate with me on it. I didn't even try to debate. No, I didn't even say nothing about insurance companies. I'm not even talking about health insurance. What the fuck is wrong with you people? You're retarded. So if you reply to some shit like this, if you reply to my fucking tweet with some off the wall, off topic shit, I'm just going to assume you're either trolling or you're legitimately insane because that's the only two options here. You're an insane person. I mean, it's hilarious that you guys are like, we can't have vigilante justice. You can't just shoot a pedophile who's rioting in the street. That's insane. You can't do it. You can't do it. But you can shoot a CEO. It's the same people. The same people who got upset because an American citizen took it upon himself to get his gun and go out in the street and guard businesses because nobody else would fucking do it. From literal fucking lunatics, guys that just got out of a mental institution for raping 9-year-old boys. Now, why we live in a country where a man can rape a 9-year-old boy in the ass and be walking the streets, I don't know. I don't know what that is. That's insane. It's legitimately insane. But he's hanging out with liberals, so that tells you who they support. He feels comfortable around you motherfuckers. And then you want to try to shame people for liking Jesus or something. It's the dumbest shit. You're retarded. You want to shame people for like having a religion or something. Oh, they're so backwards. There's something wrong with them. You literally want to let criminals roam the streets. You want fucking people who rape children out on the streets and shit, given a second chance and shit. You're the lunatic, not the guy that's going to church. What the fuck? They keep trying to convince me that all these people to go to church is like a threat to something or whatever, but it's like, no, it's you. You're the threat. You keep telling me everyone else is a threat, but it's legitimately you. You're the threat. We saw it during COVID. We saw it time and time again. We saw it during the BLM stuff. We saw it during October 7th. This is a pattern where you people support violence against people you don't like. Now, most of you are dangerous, but most of you are also cowards. So you'll never be able to actually get violent yourself unless you're part of a mob of motherfuckers. But you love watching other people get violent in your name because you ain't got the balls to do nothing. You're cowards, most of you, which makes you even more dangerous because, like I said, you're cowardly. You'll sell everybody else out. These are terrible people. And I'm not talking about the politician. I'm talking about the voter. I'm talking about guys like Destiny. There's tons of these guys. And that's how they truly feel. That's why Destiny has so many people watching him because they love it. There's a ton of people just like him, degenerate losers, degenerate, godless Atheist losers. This is why I stopped being an atheist, because I realized it's for losers. It's for fucking losers. And look at all these atheist people. They're all losers. Like they've all like maybe at one point people thought, oh, this guy's all right, but and now we all see they're losers. Just fucking weird, degenerate losers. All their degeneracy has come out, all their madness. And they all have that in common. They're atheists. They don't believe in God. Well, when you don't believe in God, you just do all kinds of shit. You just do all kinds of weird shit. They keep telling me, well, religion was invented. Yeah, it was invented for fucking retards like you because you degenerate retard freaks have been around for centuries. And people realize, smart people realize, holy shit, these people are fucking insane. We need to control them somehow. It's for their own good and it's for the good of society, quite frankly. And they created religion, perhaps. If you want to go with that theory, then let's go with it. Let's go with your theory on religion. It's good. If they did create it, smarter men than you created something to control you, to save you from yourself. Because you can't follow simple rules. Like if nobody gives you some rules, you're just insane. You're out of control. And you're like, well, I don't got to listen to a man. And then it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're not going to listen to a man. Well, God said it. We need that. Look how godless everything is and how out of control it is. You need God. If you want to think of this from a practical, logical position, some people need this. Some people need to think that if they go out and kill somebody, they're going to burn in a fire for eternity. They need it. Because if they don't have that, they go out and kill people. They will rape children. They're insane. And they'll justify it. Well, who says it's wrong? Society. Well, then you just got to change society. You got to change people's point of view, and then suddenly it's okay because society. See, you can't live off what society deems as a good thing. You need something deeper than that, and that's what religion is. Where it's like, okay, it doesn't matter that all these people vote that it's okay to do this or that. No, it's not. They don't overrule God. And you think you're so clever. That's a problem with this generation of retards. They think they're so smart. I see it every day. These guys that think they are smart. You talk to them and you realize they're not that goddamn smart. They're not. I'm dumb and I'm smarter than them. So I'm not a smart or anything. I'm just smarter than them. They're dumb. I just argue with idiots and it just makes me look smarter. Just argue with idiots and people will go, God damn, you're pretty smart. No, I know these people are idiots. I'm arguing. They're idiots. Literal, I'm an idiot. But they are even dumber than me. They got no sense whatsoever. They don't catch on to it. They're slow and slow. See, I'm not slow. It's like, oh, okay. You keep lying to me and I keep catching you. I'm not gonna go, well, they're telling the truth this time. No. They lie all the time. There's no reason for me to trust anything they say. You can cry about it all day. I don't give a fuck. You you lie too. These people that lie to you all the time and then just want you to believe them. Knock it off. Grow up. What is this? What is wrong with people on the internet? What is wrong with you? It's like Junie with it's just like why is he even making a video crying about Trump? He's been consistently wrong ever since I've known the motherfucker. Consistently Wrong. He will come in here, he will rant and rave about some bullshit news story, and then literally weeks later, it's all debunked. Everything he said, all the truth comes out, and then he don't even want to talk about it no more. And you bring it up, and he's like, "Oh well, you know." And at no point does he say to himself, "Man, I'm always wrong." Like, God damn. I go on about this and that, and then I'm just look like a fucking retard. All this mindless hyperfixation on January 6th is going to look real stupid about 2 months from now. So get ready. It's going to look real stupid when that FBI guy gets in there, when they confirm him, and it all comes out that that place was crawling with feds. And this was all a big fucking setup. And the FBI has been doing shit like this for a long time. That's why they're scared of these motherfuckers getting in there. They don't want that. They don't want it. Well, that's too damn bad. That's what the people voted for. I keep hearing this fucking nobody voted for a wrecking ball. I did. I did. I voted for a wrecking ball. Slam into the side of government. Because it's too damn big and out of control. It's they spy on American citizens. It's a mess. It's so chemicals in the food, all the shit they put in the water, the wars, everything. There's so much shit that you literally need to go in and just start dismantling some shit. You need to look at what you got and go, okay, we definitely need this, we need that, but this shit right here gotta go. What the fuck is this? Are American citizens working all day to pay taxes to be spied on? To their tax dollars go to spying on them? I mean, what the fuck? Do I want to work all day and my tax dollars go to fucking? Yeah, I keep hearing about yeah, they want to cut welfare and they want to do this. How about we just start with fucking sending billions of dollars to other countries and helping their people? How about we send that? We take all that money. How about we look at the budget for last year, for this year? How much foreign aid did we send? All right, next year we're not going to send any foreign aid, but we're going to take the same amount of money and we're going to put it back into the people of this country. So maybe we'll send everybody a check or whatever that instead of sending it all over here, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Because you're just sending money anyway. You're sending out to fucking people anyway. So why don't you just send it to us? See, that's what people are starting to realize. Like, what the fuck? Why do I give a fuck? See, people are tired of virtue signaling. A lot of people are fucking sick of it. I don't want to virtue signal. I don't know. I don't care about people in other countries. I don't care about these illegal aliens. I want some stuff. If we're gonna give out some stuff, give it to me. I don't want. I don't want to give it to fucking Ukraine. I don't want to give it to Mexicans and fucking Guatemalans and all Haitians and all. No, no, no. That's why she lost the male vote more than anything. It's that men work all fucking day and are like, what the fuck? Pay all these fucking taxes. And for what? Cut all this shit. Am I supposed to believe that you're going to lose votes if you cut foreign aid? Like, who really gives a fuck? Who's voting for that, by the way? Who's going to the polls going, I'm voting for a candidate who sends money to other countries and helps people in other countries? What kind of loser shit is that? That's what you're worried about? And by the way, if this insurance company is so, I keep hearing about this insurance company. If this insurance company is so bad, why don't you fucking all pull out of it? Why don't you all stop paying the insurance and just cancel your fucking insurance so the whole fucking thing collapses, you fucking idiot? That seems more of an effective thing than I'll shoot the CEO. Fuck. well, the CEO's a murderer. They denied claims and stuff. It's like, bro, you sound like a little kid. The CEO is not a fucking murderer because a claim was denied. Are you insane? Are you insane? So no claim can ever be denied. Now, I agree if you've been paying for health insurance your whole damn life or whatever the fuck, then they should pay for your whatever the fuck it is, quite frankly, they should just pay for it because haven't you been paying them? But um they're not going to. Welcome to reality. Perhaps, perhaps here's an idea. You may not like hearing this, but here's an idea for you. Grow some balls, grow up, realize that you're going to die, and the insurance company, nobody's probably going to save you. And you're probably going to die from some shit you did to yourself, like smoking, drinking, eating like shit. Maybe you're driving your car a little too fast. Whatever the fuck you do is, you're probably going to end up dead. You're probably going to end up fucking yourself. And perhaps if you cut those bad habits out, worked out more, ate better, whatever the fuck, maybe you wouldn't need that fucking claim. Maybe you wouldn't even need health insurance. But you fuck yourself all up, and then when you need it, you're like, oh God, and they're gonna deny your fucking claim. So why even have health insurance? Why even have health insurance? Why even spend money on it if they're not even gonna give it to you when you need it? Why not just keep your money and use that to buy better food or go to the gym or whatever the fuck you gotta do? Save the money, put it in a bank account somewhere, in a savings account, and then if you get really sick, hey, you got this big pile of money that's just sitting here. You was giving it instead of giving it to the insurance company that when you need them most is just going to go, well, no, actually, no, we're not going to pay for none of that. Well, what the fuck? I've been paying y'all money for fucking years. And then the insurance companies will realize, well, fuck, these people ain't going to fucking buy health insurance if we keep denying their fuck when they need it. We deny it. Why the fuck would I pay for that? Why the fuck would I even want that? It's like I'm getting robbed and then I just get fucked anyway in the end. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I've been spending all this money, but finally I'm going to use this stuff. Well, actually, no. Actually, no. Denied. Your claim is denied. Why does an ambulance ride cost 3,000 fucking dollars? Or two. Well, an ambulance ride costs about 1,000. Just getting a fucking ambulance. Why? Why? Fucking why? Doesn't even make sense. And you have insurance and you still have to pay money. See, that's what I'm saying. You still have to pay them money. So what the fuck? Fuck you need it for? What's the point? What's the point in spending your money on something that you just, I mean, well, I would have had to pay 10 grand after. Why? What? You know what I mean? None of it makes any sense that any of it costs that much. See, it's just people are getting ripped off. But the answer isn't to just start executing the CEOs. I mean, that's insane. Get a grip. People are nuts. You're fucking nuts. Speaking of nuts, they're all excited about Syria. They love it. They love it. But it's going to be just like Iraq. You take out one evil, a worse evil show up. That's what we're going to see in Syria. It's not going to be good. Innocent people are going to be murdered. So that's what you're cheering on. That's what you're excited about. Assad is gone. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. It's not great. It's not a great thing. It's actually terrible. It's actually, just because somebody is evil and fucked up and everything does not mean that we should want them to lose power in some of these countries because, you got worse people coming after them. And that's what you're going to get. That's what you got in Iraq. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get ISIS. Notice how ISIS is back. And notice how it won't be soon. It won't be soon. It's just fascinating. Like, they really do sympathize with terrorists. Like, it's not, like, it is real. That's why I call them out. I call them Hamas supporters because they are. I mean, that's what they are. They don't like hearing the truth. It pisses them off when you say it like that, but that is what they support. And I can document this. I can show you example after example of them defending terrorism, defending the murder of civilians, people that they don't agree with, they don't like, they don't mind them being killed by terrorists. This is why the left loves these Islamists. They're so against religion and all this stuff. It doesn't make any sense until you realize it makes perfect sense. They love death, violence. They love it. And so these Islamists do that. And they love it. They love it. Even though uh, they'd kill them too. If they caught these fucking some of these loser leftists over in Syria right now, they'd fucking kick the shit out of you. They don't like you, but you like them because you like the violence. Because you hate Jews. I mean, the Jew thing is that's what the left and right have in common. They hate Jews. Like a whole bunch of people that just hate Jews. And I'll say this: at least the right wing motherfuckers aren't bullshitting you about it. They tell you straight up they hate Jews. The leftist people, boy, they love to bullshit. No, I don't like Zionists and all that. It's such horseshit, bro. But like I said about the leftist is a coward. The leftist can't be as real as the right wing person. Can't do it. The right wing person's just going to be like, yeah, the Jews run the world, and the Jews this, and the Jews that. Da, 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 da. You'll see some of them praising Hitler and shit. The liberal though, the liberal can't stand Jews, but can't be honest about it. Can't be honest about it. Has to bullshit. Has to come up with a word, Zionist. I don't like the Zionists. No, you don't like Jews. You don't like Jews. Just be honest about it. Quit being cowards. Nobody likes a coward. Nobody likes a guy that's just everybody knows you hate Jews, but when somebody goes, "Man, you really hate Jews, huh?" You're like, "No, I don't hate Jews. Why would you say that?" Well, you've spent the last hour ranting about Jews. No, I was going off about Israel. Uh, I don't know, man. I've been listening to you. Seem like you don't like Jews, man. And then suddenly you're God, they get so defensive about it. Suddenly oh, everyone's an anti-Semitist, huh? Huh? Everyone's a fucking Nazi, huh? And I'm like, I didn't call you a Nazi or anything. I just said you seem to have a problem with Jews. Like, what the fuck? Why not just be a man and say, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. That'd be far more interesting and entertaining to listen to than the mindless fucking horseshit. Mindless bullshit. Just stop trying to bullshit us, man. And I already know the United Kingdom is done. I already know the cops are showing up because you said something on the internet or whatever the fuck. Your country's done. Done. Don't worry, you'll be able to hate Jews openly very soon. That's going to be the funniest part. Like right now, they show up and go, "Hey, what'd you say about Jews?" But in 10 years or so, no one will have a problem with you talking shit about Jews. Now, you won't be able to talk no shit about Islam, but I don't think you can do that anyway at this point without getting beheaded in the street. I don't think. Remember they beheaded that teacher in the street? Remember that? They beheaded a few of you in the street over there, and I think a lot of you've got the hint. I think you're just accepting it. I mean that's probably the move. I said this years ago on the stream. The move in the United Kingdom is to just convert to Islam now. So by the time all this is really, Islam is really dominating it. Well, you've been a Muslim for like 10 years. And everyone in the community is like, oh, yeah, this guy, when they start beheading white people in the street, someone will say, well, this guy, he's been a Muslim for a long time and he's had our back and they'll let you live. Because some people they'll probably let you convert though. They'll probably give you a choice convert and follow Sharia law or get beheaded in the street. But if you've been a Muslim for like 10 years or so, hell, you can join in. Like you could be on the sideline going, yeah, behead him. You're just all in. No shame jumping on the winning side. Getting on the winning team. Fuck it. Getting ahead of the game. Because you know it's coming. Might as well get ahead of the game. So when it arrives, what's the big deal? You've been going to the mosque and praying, doing all that stuff. You've been doing all that stuff for a while. You've been a Muslim for a long time. There'll probably be some copycats. There'll probably be more crazy shit like this. I mean, there's this. There's Donald Trump almost getting shot. You almost seen him die on live TV too. You're gonna see more shit like this, man. They're gonna try to kill motherfuckers. Next year is gonna be kind of crazy. It's just gonna be crazy. Like it's gonna be wild. Because leftists are out of control. They're out of fucking control. And there's gonna be some incidents with these crazy motherfuckers. They're going to try to shoot fucking Trump or something. Or I mean, everybody in that cabinet needs to have high security because they're nuts. And then on top of the lunatics, you got to worry about these lunatics that are so mind fucked by the media. God, man, they might do anything. On top of that, you got fucking intelligence agencies are mad. You got all kinds of shit going on. And apparently, the picture of the guy in Starbucks ain't even the guy. I read something on Twitter that is not even the guy, and he was gonna sue people or something. Sue the media or something. Maybe that was a bullshit tweet. I don't know. Usually, it's got a community note if it is. Well, yeah. Well, I think Elon's got some serious security. He's the richest man in the world, and he knows he's a target, especially now. So he's probably got some serious fucking security. He probably spends a lot of money on security. I mean, that honestly might be why he's with Trump a lot because he might be paying for Trump's security. Elon understands what's going on. It's so funny listening to these idiots like Ian Malcolm or Paul or somebody talk about Elon Musk being a retard or something. Like it's hilarious to me. Like you're not even close to being as smart as Elon Musk. And then they're like, "Oh, you're kissing his ass." It's like, dude, if you state reality about something, you're kissing somebody's ass. You just can't tell the truth and it be the truth. No, it's fanboying or ass kissing. No, Elon Musk is smarter than me and you, bro. Hate to break it to you, but Elon Musk smarter than everybody in this goddamn chat. Get over yourself, bro. Are you the richest man in the fucking world? Are you figuring out how to take a rocket, fire it off, and then bring it back to Earth and land it and then reuse it again? Well, he has a team of people, and bro, are you like it's like you watch that Oppenheimer movie. It's a great movie, but when you watch that movie, yeah, Oppenheimer. Now people say Oppenheimer, he came up with that bomb and everything. They give him the credit. If you watch the movie, there's a whole team of motherfuckers. He's got a team of motherfuckers, but he's the head of the team. You understand? He's the smartest motherfucker in the room. There's other smart motherfuckers in there too, but he's smarter than all them. Smart motherfuckers. This is how I know a liberal's retarded, bro. Just so you know, when you say this stuff about Elon, I realize how retarded you are. When you say, "Oh, he has a team of people," yeah, no shit. Highly intelligent people realize you get more done when you got a team, and if you got other really smart motherfuckers with you, you can get a lot done. You can figure a lot of shit out. I mean, what the fuck? It's retarded, bro. And these motherfuckers hold society back. Like, just shut up and go sit down, bro. And they get so fucking mad when they got to work at an Arby's or something. Like, you're not smart enough to do much else. Be grateful to have a job. Be grateful there's something for you to do. Make a living. Because you're not landing fucking rockets. You're not ever going to be able to figure that shit out. The nerve of you to say something about Elon Musk. The nerve of you to talk a bunch of shit about how his intelligence. I mean, they're not saying, "Oh, I don't like his opinion on this or that." No, he's an idiot. He's not smart. He's smarter than you. Where? How are you? You're retarded. And it's always something you go hear what Elon said that set him off. It's like, yeah, he's right. What the fuck are you talking about? Just some common sense shit. He's like, if we don't tackle the national debt, if we don't work on paying this off and cutting the spending and everything, uh, then everything we pay will go to interest. And it's not sustainable. And they're like, God, he's such a fucking idiot. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking? He's like, we should cut wasteful spending in the government. And they're like, no, can't, my God, no. They're literally defending wasteful spending. That- He's like, we got to cut wasteful spending. They're like, you can't do that. Fascism. Who voted for Elon? Like, what are you so bent out of shape about? Remember that news report that he called Lazinski or whatever and had a conversation with him or some shit? By the way, I'm sure Elon Musk has had conversations with Lazinski a ton of times. He's the richest man in the world. He's got this satellite grid over the entire fucking planet. Remember they was wanting to use Starlink and shit, and he let them use it for a little bit till they was trying to use it to fire missiles at Russia. And then he was like, "Well, no, I'm not. My shit's not being used for war." And then they got all bent out of shape about that. Elon's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna escalate the war." Oh, the horror. We're supposed to be mad about it. And then they're like, "Well, Trump's going to end the war, but he's going to give some the territories Russia's already conquered. He's going to let them keep them." And I'm like, "Who gives a shit? I'm supposed to care. I'm supposed to go, well, you know what? Fine. Risk World War III, risk a draft, risk nuclear war, risk all of that because that land is so sacred. Who gives a fuck? Didn't Russia used to own that shit anyway? Who gives a fuck?" We're talking about Russia taking back some places they used to control. They used to own those places. I'm supposed to care. I'm supposed to throw it all away. Throw it all away. Let's have a war. No. Give Russia those territories and move on. Give them all of Ukraine. Who gives a fuck? They used to own it anyway. Who cares? You act like we're giving them England or some shit. And by the way, I wouldn't care about that either. Let them have England too. All England never does is talk shit anyway. Fuck them. It's a police state hellscape anyway. What do I care? I'm supposed to care about fucking Ukraine. We're supposed to fight to the last man. Remember when they was trying to get Americans to sign up, volunteer, and go over there? Some of them did. Some of them did. Some of them want to go to war. It's like, fuck, I want to go fight too. Fuck it. It was not illegal. He didn't pay people millions to vote for Trump. Trump gave a woman $100 in a grocery store, a mother with children, to help her pay her groceries. That liberals like you calls to rise up by voting for Joe Biden, and the nerve of you. See, this is why you lost, by the way. This is exactly why you lost. Because most people saw that video and said, oh, that's pretty nice. Trump paid for that woman's groceries. That probably helped her a lot this month. Because we're all adults and we have children and we know how expensive it is and we know how expensive groceries is and we have jobs and shit. And we realize, man, if someone just paid my rent or paid my groceries or whatever, how that would be like huge for the entire month. Because that woman was probably about to drop $200-300 on a bunch of shit, probably more than that. And then Donald Trump comes out of nowhere and pays it, and you're like, "God, it's illegal. That ain't right. That ain't right." It's like, what the fuck? This is why y'all lose. You all talk about all the time. These billionaires ought to give back to the poor people and shit. And then when one's literally paying for a woman's groceries, some poor woman's groceries in a fucking grocery store, you're upset about it. You want charges pressed and all kind of shit. You're retarded. And I can promise you that woman was already going to vote for Trump anyway, because if that was some crazy liberal, she would have burned the money and demanded to pay it herself. Yeah, but he's campaigning in Pennsylvania, Doug. One day you nerds are going to realize you're just gay. You cry over the dumbest shit. Normal people see that video and go, "Ah, good for that woman. Getting her groceries paid for." Especially this close to Christmas. How she probably would got her kids some Christmas gifts, and the kids are gonna have a good Christmas, despite your best efforts to ruin their Christmas by voting for Joe Biden. Donald Trump just saved Christmas, and you are upset about it. That's why y'all lost. And the path to victory in 2028 is to completely change this attitude. This negative, shitty attitude you got about everything, you got to change it. So when you see a woman, like if I seen Kamala Harris in a grocery store and she was like paying people's groceries, I wouldn't be like, "Ah, fucking, she's trying to rig the election." I'd say, man, that's pretty smart. That's pretty smart fucking strategy. Like, and if she got on the mic and they did a press conference, she was like, people are struggling. People are struggling, and I'm just coming here to help some of these people. I know it ain't much, but we got to help people. And she should have threw Biden. She should have threw Biden under the bus. Like she should have came out strong. But she's just not smart enough to do it. She's an idiot. Trump gets it. Trump's like, people are struggling. I'm gonna go down to the grocery store. I'll pay for some people's fucking groceries. And he knows retard liberals like you are gonna get upset about it, and you're gonna dox the woman and want her investigated. And I mean, God knows what you did to that poor woman. But everything you did, all the evil you do, only results in you losing even more. And then you become more unhinged and you lose even more. It's a never ending cycle for you. And I mean, you cheated in 2020. I think that's quite clear now. It's quite clear now that you cheated. Hey, where'd all those voters go? The tale of the missing voters. Where'd all those damn voters go? Well, blue haired liberal wasn't sitting at the kitchen table filling out a ballot for every motherfucker in the house. Blue haired liberal didn't get a chance to do that. And they took some of those dead people off the voter rolls. The dead people stayed home this election. The dead rested this election. A dozen eggs is $4. I see it every day. Dozen eggs, $4. They garnished some dude's bank account in Canada because he wouldn't hold a Pride Month. He didn't want to participate in Pride Month. The gay shit, I'm telling you right now, it's over. Just know that it's over. This is it. I mean, in Canada, who knows? Yeah, I mean, Justin Trudeau is on his way out. Canada's going to go more right wing, I feel. We're seeing the end of this stuff. The trans stuff is done. Done. Over. They're getting sued. The lawsuits. I told you there'd be massive lawsuits. That's starting. Tons of lawsuits. You see it every day now, these lawsuits. Trans stuff's over. Everybody knows it's insane. Supreme Court's going to end up banning it completely. Uh, and that's just the kids. And they're going to keep on with the insanity till people start going, well, the adults are pretty crazy too. That's pretty crazy to do to a grown ass man too, or a grown ass woman. These crazy surgeries and things. Like it really is time to get serious about mental health. You keep hearing about that from the liberal, but liberals love saying that, but I don't think they realize what that really means. It means putting people like them in mental institutions against their will. That's what it means. It means seeing a person and just knowing they're crazy. Now, we're not talking about, we're talking about dangerously crazy. These people are dangerous. They have a level of mental illness that's on full display. And they're expressing violent thought. They're not just having a good time. They're expressing a lot of violent thoughts, violent behaviors, and you got to go to a facility where you can be taken care of and kept away from the rest of us. More importantly, I think people are starting to realize that they got one life to live, and they don't want to spend it living around a bunch of criminals, a bunch of mentally ill fucking lunatics. So somebody put these people away. You see what they did in El Salvador with all those fucking gang members? Like, enough. I think you're going to start seeing that more and more in the world. I think that's why people around the world are excited about Trump because they know he'll fucking kill these fucking terrorists and everything like that. People are sick of it. People are fucking sick of it to the point it's like, hell, bomb these motherfuckers. Like when he was talking about bombing the cartels and shit, people was like, yeah, yeah, whatever. People are sick of it. People are sick of the illegals, like deport them and shit. So let me tell you something. I think people are to the point where they don't even give a fuck. Like some of these like these illegals that are bashing motherfuckers' heads in with rocks and shit. If Trump just started taking these criminal gang members, these murderers and rapists, and executing them, I don't think anybody'd give a shit at this point. So best believe they're not going to give a shit when you say deport them. We're going to deport them. Oh, of course people's going to be down with deporting them because there's a huge shit ton of people that are down to execute these criminals. I'm talking about the criminal. I'm talking about these gang member lunatics that have come here and are taking over apartment complexes and shit. But Trump's not going to do that. No, he's just going to deport them. You're not going to get the public to care. No one cares. Deport them. Send them home. Why would I care? What is there to be outraged about? There's, like I said, there's not even, oh, these people are being killed or something. There's nothing to have fake outrage about. They're being sent home. Well, when they're sent back to their country, they'll be killed. Like, what the fuck? They're going to get off the plane and just be shot? Well, what'd they do in that country then? What the fuck did they do? There's no way to lose in 2028. The Democrats don't have a candidate. They don't have anything. They have nothing. They have literally nothing. There's no reason to be optimistic about the Democratic Party in 2028. They've shown me nothing since losing a month ago. I've seen nothing from them. They've gotten even worse and more pathetic. Now they're celebrating vigilanteism after they raised a fuss about Kyle Rittenhouse. It's very important to bring up Kyle Rittenhouse right now because wait a minute, y'all told me vigilanteism was bad. Now the same people are telling me it's okay to execute the CEO of healthcare companies because he denied some claims. Well, the guy Kyle Rittenhouse shot, raped a 9-year-old boy, and was actively rioting and vandalizing and burning down the town. And he was attacking Kyle Rittenhouse. So that seems pretty justified. If it's justified to execute a healthcare CEO in the street, then it most certainly is justified what Kyle Rittenhouse did. But I guess it's different. I guess it's different. Just like everything else, it's different. I was a 17-year-old kid running the streets with a gun. Why was a convicted child molester roaming the streets? I mean, what the fuck? Where are your priorities? I mean, these people are brain dead retarded, I'm telling you. They'll say, why was a 17-year-old boy walking the streets with an AR-15? And to that I'll say, because there was a convicted child molester walking the streets. There's convicted child molesters, not just walking the streets, rioting. They're rioting. They're getting violent. And they love raping children. So children need to arm themselves, I feel. If there's ever a time for a child to arm themselves, it's in a moment like that. I mean, you're not going to protect the children. You're going to let child molesters roam the streets. And then when some kid has a gun, you're shocked. I was shocked when you find out some kid figures out at age 12 that he needs a gun because you people are fucking nuts. In fact, I think you could make an argument that no one needs a gun more than a child. I mean, if you think about it, who's more vulnerable than a child? Even more vulnerable than a woman. And a woman definitely needs a gun. In this sick, demented world, children can't go to school without some lunatic shooting up the school. Maybe that's the answer. Train and arm the children. Think twice about smacking little Jimmy with that belt if he's armed. They used to teach the kids to shoot in school. Used to have shooting class. I remember taking some of it. Shooting fucking some type of pellet gun shit in school. Teaching you how to aim the shit. So we go, what the fuck? And enough with the mask. God, I've seen so many masks today. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the hell these goofy motherfuckers. I mean, it's crazy, the mask. It's insane. Where can I watch this interview? Yeah, with this woman. We see this woman that climbed in them, or this dude climbed the side of a building to get mama out. I seen a clip of this shit earlier. This woman retarded. I mean, enough of these journalists that dumb as fuck. I think the whole hour and 16. All right.
President-elect Donald Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. You are the first president since Grover Cleveland to win non-consecutive terms. Republicans now have control of the House and the Senate.
Right.
What do you plan to accomplish in your first 100 days in office?
Well, we're going to do something with the border, and very strong, very powerful. That'll be our first signal, and the first signal to America that we're not playing games. We have people coming in by the millions, as you know, and a lot of people shouldn't be here. Most of them shouldn't be here, but we have jails being emptied into our country. We have mental institutions from all over the world being emptied into our country. So we'll be doing that. We're going to be extending within that period, or as soon as we can, the Trump tax cuts, because, you know, they're coming due and they're very substantial for people. And it would be very, I think it will anger a lot of people, frankly, if we don't get an extension of that. That's what led us to one of the greatest economies ever. And those two things are going to be very vital, very important. We're going to be focusing on crime in the cities. And we'll work with Democrat governors. Most of them are, as you know, if you look at the 25 worst places, they're just about all Democrat-controlled cities and states. And we're going to be working with Democrat governors and Democrat mayors. And I look forward to doing it. But we have to do something about crime, and mostly in our cities. And we're going to have a lot of other things. We'll be working on nominations. We're going to still be working on some nominations. I think they're going very well. We have, for the most part, I think they're going extremely well. It looks like Peter's doing well now. I mean, people were a little bit concerned. He's a young guy with a tremendous track record, actually. He went to Princeton and went to Harvard. He was a good student at both, but he loves the military, and I think people are starting to see it. So we'll be working on his nomination along with a lot of others.
We are going to delve into your nominations, but since you bring him up, do you still have confidence in Pete Hegseth?
Yes, I do. I really do. He's a very smart guy. I've known him through Fox, but I've known him for a long time. And he's basically a military guy. I mean, every time I talk to him, all he wants to talk about is the military. He's a military guy. I used to kid him about it. I didn't think we'd be in this position where he may be, hopefully will be Secretary of Defense. But every time I was with him, he was fighting for soldiers, where he said some soldier was unjustly put in prison because they were really doing what they were taught to do, in some cases. So, yeah, I think he's going to do fine.
The fact that there are these allegations against him, misconduct, sexual misconduct, heavy drinking, the fact that he said to some senators reportedly he'll stop drinking if he gets this job, does that worry you?
No, I think that everybody has something that they can stop. Some people can stop eating. I'm lucky I'm not a drinker, but I could stop eating. And we all want to stop doing something. And if he said that, I mean, it's a nice thing to say. That's a good thing to say. But he's very respected. I can tell you, I know a lot of the people at Fox, they think he's fantastic. And the people that work with him, really, they love him. So I think you're going to have somebody that's really terrific. And again, all he talked about with me, I said, you know, you're not really a television guy, even though he did very well, as you know. You're really a military guy. He said, I'm all about the military. And I told him, so he's making a lot of money at Fox. They're doing very well. And I said, you know, if for some reason you don't get this thing, you're not going to be able to go back. And all that money you're making, you can kiss it goodbye. He said, this is all about America. You know, he didn't say, well, let me think about it. Let me discuss it. That's a very big, risky thing he's doing. When he goes and he says, I'm going to give up, you know, millions of dollars in order to possibly become the Secretary of Defense. A lot of people would say it's a great position. It's probably almost no greater position, but a lot of people would say, I have to think about it. He said, I don't have to think about it.
All right, we're going to delve into your cabinet picks a little bit later, but I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion. And now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices for their consumers. How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers?
They cost Americans nothing. They made a great economy for us. They also solve another problem. If we were going to have problems having to do with wars and having to do with other things, tariffs, I have stopped wars with tariffs by saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs to the United States at 100%. And they have many purposes, tariffs, if properly used. I don't say you use them like a madman. I say properly used. But it didn't cost this country anything. It made this country money. And we never really got the chance to go all out because we had to fight COVID in the last part. And we did it very successfully. And when I handed it over to Biden, the stock market was higher than what it was just previous to COVID coming in. It was actually higher. Tariffs are properly used, are a very powerful tool, not only economically, but also for getting other things outside of economics.
Well, again, prices did go up on some goods in your first administration, washing machines, tires. Will you punish CEOs?
Let me just explain to you. No. You mentioned washing machines. So you look at Whirlpool in Ohio. I got a call from Jim Jordan, one of the greats, congressman from Ohio. And he said, they're going out of business because South Korea and China are dumping washing machines into our country. And I put a 50% tariff on the washing machines coming in from China and South Korea. And Whirlpool and the companies that made washing machines, which are based in Ohio, largely based in Ohio, went through the roof. We saved thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs. They were all going out of business because they were dumping washing machines. And when I put the tariffs on, they became successful businesses. No, it didn't. Not only didn't it cost people, it made our country stronger and more powerful, and it kept jobs.
But how do you make sure that consumers don't wind up paying more? Will you punish CEOs who try to pass the cost of tariffs on to their customers?
Well, the market's going to take care of it. I mean, actually, the market takes care of it. And if it doesn't, we adjust it somewhat. But in the case of Whirlpool, or let's say companies that made washing machines, they were all being put out of business by the dumping from, in particular, South Korea and China. And when I put the tariffs on, very substantial tariffs, although peanuts compared to what people do to us, what countries do to us, it became a very, very powerful, successful company. Now, let's say I didn't do the tariffs. It would have gone out of business. You would have lost tens of thousands of jobs, and you don't include that in your equation. No, they make a lot of money. I'll go a step further. Tariffs are going to make our country rich. Tariffs are going to help us pay off $35 trillion in debt. Tariffs are going to make our country safe because China, as an example, doesn't want to play games with us if we're going to do tariffs on them. They don't want to play games. And we have a lot of games being played on us right now.
Well, I think, and that takes me to my next question. Yeah. Are you actually going to impose these tariffs, or are they a negotiating tactic?
Well, I'll give you an example. With Canada, and in particular Mexico, we have millions of people pouring into our country. You agree with that? I spoke with I spoke with Justin Trudeau. In fact, he flew to Mar-a-Lago within about 15 seconds after the call ended. Yeah. He was at Mar-a-Lago. We were having dinner talking about it. I said, you have to close up your borders because they're coming in the northern border too a lot. Not like the southern border, but they're coming in the Canadian border a lot. And drugs are pouring in. Almost as importantly, drugs are pouring in, maybe more importantly, drugs are pouring in at levels never seen before, 10 times what we had. They're just pouring in. We can't have open borders. And I said to the president of Mexico and to Justin Trudeau, if it doesn't stop, I'm going to put tariffs on your country at about 25%. That's a very substantial tariff. And in the case of, in both cases, but in the case where it was really visible, within 10 minutes after that phone call, we noticed that the people coming across the border, the southern border, having to do with Mexico, they were at a trickle, just a trickle. It was, in fact, I call the border. See, unlike my opponent, I do call the border a lot. And I said, how's the border looking today? They said, there's nobody here. They couldn't believe it. The military stopped these vast groups of people. You know, we call them caravans, but they had caravans of people, and they largely stopped them. Now, they're going to have to continue that, but if they don't continue, and the other thing I told them is no more drugs, and I told that to China, too. I had to deal with President Xi. Had the election been different, I'm going to be very nice because we don't have to get into an argument over 2020, but had the election been different, the result been different, we would have had China giving their maximum penalty, which is the penalty of death, to people that sent fentanyl into this country. But Biden didn't, unfortunately, finish that discussion up. I had an agreement with President Xi, who I got along with very well. We've had communication as recently as this week. And I had communication with him where they were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending drugs into the United States.
This week you had that conversation.
Not that conversation, but I had other conversations. Okay. But in the past, I've had that conversation.
Let me ask you about another aspect of the economy, sir, the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. There are 20 states that still have the federal minimum wage at $7.25. And I actually have a map. 19 of these states actually voted for you, sir. Mm-hmm. And you can see it right here. I don't know if you remember this, but during the debate in 2020, I asked you if you would raise the minimum wage. You said you would consider it. And so my question for you is, now that you are going back to the White House, for these 19 states that voted for you, are you going to raise the federal minimum wage?
It's a very low number. I will agree. It's a very low number. Let me give you the downside, though. Yeah. In California, they raised it up to a very high number. And your restaurants are going out of business all over the place. The population is shrinking. It's had a very negative impact. But there is a level at which you could do it, absolutely. Yeah.
What is that level, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I can say this. You have a lot of businesses that are open and thriving because of the lower minimum wage. If you raise it too much, and you understand this, if California went crazy, they went crazy. And people, the restaurants are closing all over. Many more people are hurt.
So I hear you saying, similarly to sort of what you said in 2020, will you consider, is this something you're going to look at?
I'd want to speak to the governors. And the other thing that's very complicated about minimum wages is places are so different. Mississippi and Alabama and great places are very different than New York or California. I mean, in terms of the cost of living and other things. So it would be nice to have just a minimum wage for the whole country, but it wouldn't work because you have places where it's very inexpensive to live, where a minimum wage, which is $8 or $9, might be, might have very little effect because the cost of living in certain places is really low.
Before we move on to immigration, which I do want to talk about, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, said he will not leave his post even if you ask him to. Will you try to replace Jerome Powell?
No, I don't think so. I don't see it. But I think if I told him to, he would. But if I asked him to, he probably wouldn't. But if I told him to, he would.
You don't have plans to do that right now?
No, I don't.
Okay, let's talk about mass deportation, one of
Okay.
your big agenda items. You've talked about prioritizing people who have criminal histories.
Correct.
But is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it, and it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons. We don't want people that are in for murder. So we had 11,000 and 13,000 different estimates, 13,099 murderers released into our country over the last 3 years. They're walking down the streets. They're walking next to you and your family, and they're very dangerous.
The 13,000 figure, I think, goes back about 40 years.
No, it doesn't. No,
That
it's within the 3-year
13,000
period. It's
figure.
during the Biden term. No, that was a fiction that they put that out. This was done by the Border Patrol. It's 13,099, and it's during the Biden period of time. And these are murderers, many of whom murdered more than one person. You don't want those people in this country.
But you're saying something, sir, that's significant. I just want to make
ahead.
sure I'm clear, which is that you're saying, yes, you're going to focus on the people with criminal histories, but everyone who's here illegally has to go.
I'm
is what
saying
you're
this.
saying.
We have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to get people that were taken out of mental institutions and put them back into their mental institution, no matter what country it is. Do you know that Venezuela, their prisons are at the lowest point in terms of emptiness that they've ever been? They're taking their people out of those prisons by the thousands, and they're drunk. And just to get back, because I know exactly what you're getting at. Number one, we're doing criminals, and we're going to do them really rapidly. We're getting the worst gang probably with MS-13, and the Venezuelan gangs are the worst in the world. They're vicious, violent people. And you see what they've done in Colorado and other places. They're taking over, literally taking over apartment complexes and doing it with impunity. They don't care. They couldn't. They just are. They're in the real estate business.
You know, the
Okay.
local police say that is not the case in Colorado.
Oh, it's
but
totally the case. I mean, I have it
you
on
don't
tape.
believe the local police.
I play it. I used to play it at my rallies every single night. No, they're breaking into doors. They're taking over the building.
But sir, you
and by the
raised
way, the
point.
police are afraid to do anything.
You raised the point that the logistics are complicated. You said
Sure
it
they
yourself.
are,
You would
but
need
everything's
24
complicated.
Yeah, you need 24 times more ICE detention capacity just to deport 1 million people per year, not to mention more agents, more judges, more planes. Is it realistic to deport everyone who's
You have
here
no
illegally?
choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals. We have convicted murders. We don't mean people that are even on trial. We have people that have murdered numerous people are on our streets and in our farms, and we have to get them out of our country.
What about dreamers, sir? Dreamers who were brought to this country illegally as children. You said once back in 2017, they, quote, shouldn't be very worried about being deported. Should they be worried now?
The dreamers are going to come later, and we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country. And yes, we're going to do something about the
What does
dreamers.
that mean?
And
What are you going to do?
I will work with the Democrats on a plan, and if we can come up with a plan, but the Democrats have made it very, very difficult to do anything. Republicans are very open to the dreamers. The dreamers, we're talking many years ago, they were brought into this country, many years ago. Some of them are no longer young people, and in many cases, they become successful. They have great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses. Some cases, they might have large businesses. And we're going to have to do something with them. And
You want them to be able to stay. That's what you're saying?
I do. I want to be able to work something out. And it should have been able to be worked out over the last 3 or 4 years. And it never got worked out. You know, Biden could have done it because he controlled, Congress to a certain extent, right? He could have done something, but they didn't do it. I never understood why, because they always seem to want to do it, but then when it comes down to it, they don't. I think we can work with the Democrats and work something out.
Let me ask you about another group of people, the estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but
Yeah.
the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking
Tom
about
Homan.
separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your border czar, Tom Homan, said they can be deported together. Is
Correct.
that the plan?
Well, that way you keep well, I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you're going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules and regulations. You can always find something out like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'll tell you what's going to be horrible. When we take a wonderful young woman who's with a criminal, and they show the woman, and she could stay by the law, but they show the woman being taken out, or they want her out, and your cameras are focused on her as she's crying, as she's being taken out of our country, and then the public turns against us. But we have to do our job, and you have to have a series of standards and a series of laws. And in the end, look, our country is a mess. We have the highest crime rate, and during the debate, a man whose ratings have gone way down, David Muir, said to me, no, crime is, because I had to debate 3 people, not one. Debating 1 was easy. Debating 3 was actually pretty easy, too, if you want to know the truth. But David Muir said, the crime rates have gone down. I said, no, they've gone up. And then the following day, they released the crime rates, and they were way up.
Yeah, and the FBI statistics are, you're talking about those FBI statistics.
Well, no, but he gave the wrong answer.
Confusing based on what you're looking at.
But a lot of that is migrant crime.
Let me ask you about another aspect of
Christian,
this.
you know a lot of it's migrant crime.
Well, let me ask you about another aspect of this that I think a lot of people are really curious about. I mean, 3% of the people who are here illegally have criminal histories. But in your first administration, you had the zero tolerance policy, where we did see family separations.
Yeah.
You ended it. The purpose of that, though, to some extent, you talked about this at the time, was deterrent.
You also had it with Obama. You do know that.
He didn't have a zero tolerance policy.
And you also know he built the jails for children.
He didn't have a zero tolerance policy.
But in 2014, he built the jails. You know that.
I want to ask you about the zero tolerance policy. I mean, he didn't have a systemic, we're going to separate families. Families were separated when parents were a threat to the kids.
We don't have to separate a family. Excuse me, Kristen.
Yeah.
We don't have to separate families.
Yeah.
We'll send the whole family very humanely back to the country where they came. That way the family's not separated.
So no more family separations. You're not reviving the zero tolerance policy.
It depends on the family. The family may decide to say, I'd rather have dad go, and we'll stay here. And in which case they have that option.
But you're not going to revive your zero tolerance policy, which was put in place as a deterrent. Is there any universe where you would bring that back, sir?
We need deterrence. Look, ready? When somebody comes here illegally, they're going out. It's very simple. When they come here illegally, they're going out. Now, if they come here illegally, but their family is here legally, then the family has a choice. The person that came in illegally can go out, or they can all go out together. And that was made very clear by Tom Homan.
So you're not, at this point in time, planning to revive that zero tolerance policy where kids are separated?
Well, if you call that, yeah, I'm doing what I just told you I'm going to do. I don't want to send the family out. I don't want to send anybody out. But I'll tell you, we have to, because otherwise we have no country. If we don't have borders, and if we don't have voting, good voting, fair voting, do you know they're still counting votes in San Diego, California? Listen, they're still counting the votes. This is almost 4 weeks. They're still counting the votes. If we don't have fair elections and honest voting and machines that work quickly, if you had paper ballots, every election will be over by 10 o'clock in the evening.
So, let me ask you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Let me, before we get
and you get a much more accurate count.
Before we get to all of that, let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive action?
We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
We're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need to, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Through executive action?
Well, if we can, through executive action. I was going to do it through executive action, but then we had to fix COVID first, to be honest with you. We have to end it. It's ridiculous. Do you know we're the only country in the world that has it? Do you know that? There's
Well,
not one other country.
What about the legal challenge, inevitable legal
that's the other
challenges
thing.
that'll come?
Do you know we have thousands of judges? Somebody walks onto our land, and we have to now say, welcome to the United States. They could be a criminal or not a criminal. We release them into our country. It's called catch and release. We release them into our country. Wait, just 1 second. And now they get them lawyers. And the lawyers are good lawyers. And everybody has a lawyer. And do you know how many judges we have? Thousands. Thousands. Now, here's what other countries do. They come into the land and they say, I'm sorry, you have to go. And they take them out. Okay? With us, once they touch our land, we're into litigation that lasts for years, costs us hundreds of billions of dollars. We have judges, and I'm sure they're all honest, but I don't know that for a fact. You can imagine what's going on with the judges. But just so you, because I have a lot of judges. I tell you what, I know more about judges than any human being in history. Look, we have judges. Every time somebody puts 2 feet or even 1 foot on a piece of our land, it's welcome to long-term litigation. Other countries, every other country, when somebody walks on and they see that they're here illegally, they walk them off, they take them back to where they came from. We have to get rid of this system. It's killing our country.
Let's talk about health care. I've been talking to Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill. They say it's no longer feasible to repeal and replace Obamacare because it's so entrenched in the system. Do you see it that way? Is that now off the table, repealing and replacing
when John
Obamacare?
McCain let us down by voting, and Murkowski and Collins and whoever it was that voted against, but they really let us down. They did us a great disservice because we would have had great health. Obamacare is lousy health care. It's very expensive health care for the people. It's also expensive for the country, but for the people. It's lousy health care. When John McCain gave his thumbs down after saying for 10 years that he wants to repeal and replace, okay? And then he came out, put his now famous thumbs down, and he became a hero to the left. Let me tell you, if we find something better, I would love to do it. But unless we find, but one thing I have to say, I inherited Obamacare or anything else you want to go. It's got about 20 names, but I inherited it. And I had a decision to make with Health and Human Services. I had a big decision to make. Do I make it as good as we can make it, or do I let it rot? And a lot of political people said, let it rot and let it be a failure. I said, that's not the right thing to do. And I had very good people in the medical area that handled that. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, we really have an obligation to make it as good as we can. And we did. We made it as good as we can make it. Instead of making it bad where everybody would be calling for its repeal, I made it so that it works. Now,
but you did try to overturn it, sir.
Well, it's lousy.
You did try to overturn it. You did have your Justice Department try to direct the Supreme Court to overturn it.
We got a little bit of a surprising opinion, to be honest with you. If it would have been overturned, we would have had much better health care right now. But right now, we have something that I made the best of. I could have made the worst of it, and it would have fallen by the wayside. I did the right thing from a human standpoint. But, you know, I'm sort of proud of my decision. At the same time, sometimes I regret it. I told the people, and I gave them the money to do it. I said, fix it, make it work, because people would have suffered. But it's too bad that they voted no. I wish John McCain, he fought for 10 years on replacing Obamacare, for 10 years, and then he voted against. Nobody understands it.
Sir, you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better answer, I would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big deal. I am the one that saved Obamacare, I will say, and I did the right thing. I could have done the more political thing and killed it, and all I had to do is starve it to death.
You did try to have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though,
No,
sir.
kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
In your concepts of a plan, sir, will people with pre-existing conditions still have coverage, and can you guarantee their prices will not go up?
The answer is yes, they'll have coverage. You have to have it.
And what about their
Because
prices?
you know what?
What about their prices, sir?
I want the prices to go down. I want to have better health care for less money. And there are ways of doing it, I believe. And I have the smartest people in that world. You know, that's a separate world unto itself. I have the smartest people in that world looking at it and trying. And if they come up with something, I will present it. Now, maybe you won't be able to sell it. But if we get better health care for less money, I believe it's very saleable.
Just very quickly, when will we see your fully developed plan? When are you going to show the public?
I don't know that you'll see it at all. I can only say that we have some of the best healthcare people. I've always tinkered with it. I think it's a little hard to explain. Obamacare, when I took it over, was a disaster. And I made it
It has insured
workable.
20 million people.
Yeah, because of me. Because of me. If you look at what I did, I was the one. I made it good.
You
Yeah,
tried to
legally.
repeal and replace it. You tried to kill it,
Because if I repealed
sir.
it and replaced it, we would have had a better system because we wouldn't have had health care. And the Democrats would have been forced to do something. If we wouldn't have had it, the Democrats would have been forced to do something that they wouldn't do if we have it.
Let me ask you about another aspect of healthcare. You talked about this on the campaign trail,
Right.
IVF. You promised free IVF for all who want it, either through the government or through mandates with insurance companies. I've been hearing from Republican senators, some of them, who say they're not going to support that plan. How are you going to get that passed?
Well, we're going to see. We want them to pay, ideally the insurance companies to pay for it, the fertilization. I came out very early for a Republican especially, and I think they were looking for my guidance, my great wisdom, right? They were looking for it. And I got a call from Katie Britt, who's a terrific person, senator from Alabama, and she said, sir, we just had a really negative ruling from a judge in Alabama, conservative judge, that all of these clinics had to be closed. And she said, and she went into great detail, and she said people are devastated over it. And after literally speaking to her for 5 minutes, I issued an order, really an order in a sense, and it was a statement from the Republican Party that we are all for IVF and fertilization. Okay. The Alabama legislature met the following day and passed it. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I consider myself to be the father of IVF in a certain way. And the Republicans were very strong on the issue.
But, sir, I want to understand where it falls in your list of priorities. I mean, is this something we can expect to see you try to move on in the first 100 days?
We're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be seeing. We have a lot of other things. I have tax cuts. You know, we'll be submitting in either the first or second package to Congress the extension of the tax cuts. So that might very well be in there, or it'll come sometime after that.
Let's talk about abortion, sir. You have taken responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. You've said that abortion is now a state issue. There are steps that you could take, though, as president to restrict abortion through executive action without Congress. More than half of abortions in this country are medication abortions. Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when you're in office?
I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
You commit to that?
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change. I hate to go on shows like Joe Biden. I'm not going to give my son a pardon. I will not, under any circumstances, give him a pardon. I watched this, and I always knew he was going to give him a pardon, and so I don't like putting myself in a position like that. So things do change, but I don't think it's going to change at all.
Okay. Let's talk about some of your picks to fill out your administration. You named Kash Patel to be the next FBI director. Yeah. He has a list in his book of 60 people that he calls members of the so-called deep state. It includes Democrats like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. It includes former members of your cabinet, from Bill Barr to Christopher Wray. You campaigned on destroying the deep state. Do you want Kash Patel to launch investigations into people on that list?
No, I mean, he's going to do what he thinks is right.
Do you think that's right? Do you think that's right, sir?
if they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think he probably has an obligation to do it. But
Are you going to direct him to do it?
no, not at all. Not at all. We have two great people there. We have him and we have Pam. And Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you, I thought Kash may be difficult because he's, a strong conservative voice. And I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching, and Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person and very smart and very respected in the party, he's Kash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they worked together on the Russia hoax or something. And Trey Gowdy became a fan. Trey Gowdy. Everybody respects him. And, just like him, others also. I don't know of one negative vote. I don't think he's going to have any negative votes.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemies?
No, I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they have broken the law, probably. They went after me, They went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. You said President Biden, quote, that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. You said that
Where
during
did I say that?
the campaign.
Where?
You said that on Truth Social, June 12th, 2023. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States, Joe Biden, and the entire
that part is
crime
true.
family. Are you going to do that? Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success. If we can make this country successful, that would be such a great achievement. Bring it back. We have a country now that's overridden with crime, that has millions of people that shouldn't be here, that should be in prisons in other countries, that should be in mental institutions. We have drug lords being dropped into our country and told never go back to their country. I'm looking to make our country great. I'm looking to bring prices down because, I won on two things, the border, and more than immigration. They like to say immigration. I break it down more to the border, but I won on the border and I won on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word, the groceries. When you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
I want to pause here because what you're saying is significant. Because you wrote on Truth Social in 2023 that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. Now you're saying you're not going to do that.
I will say this. No, I'm not doing that unless I find something that I think is reasonable. But that's not going to be my decision. That's going to be Pam Bondi's decision and, to a different extent, Kash Patel. Assuming they're both there, and I think they're both going to get approved. But while you ask me that, what they've done to me with weaponization is a disgrace.
We'll get to some of that.
No,
sir.
wait. You can't do one without the other. In the history of our country, nothing like this has ever happened. And I've won these cases. I've won every one, and the rest are in the process of being won. Deranged Jack Smith is on his way back to The Hague, where he can execute people. This is where he should have stayed. I think he's dangerous even being there. But I'll tell you what they've done to me in terms of weaponization, indictments, impeachments, and everything else. And in the end, it probably helped me because I got the biggest vote, the most votes any Republican's ever gotten in history.
Pam Bondi talks about investigating the investigators. Do you want her to investigate Jack Smith?
I want her to do what she wants to do.
Do you want to see Jack Smith investigated?
Well, I think he's very corrupt, but I want her to do whatever she has to do.
Are you going to direct her to prosecute Jack Smith?
She's a very smart person. She was a great attorney general in Florida. She's very experienced. I want her to do what she wants to do. I'm not going to instruct her to do it now.
Sir, are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to, again, I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk about
So
that,
I'm not
but-
going to do that. What I'm going to say is I certainly cannot be happy with him. You take a look at what's happened. And then when I was shot in the ear, he said, "Oh, maybe it was shrapnel. Where's the shrapnel coming from? Is it coming from heaven? I don't think so." So we need somebody to straighten. You know, I have a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect has gone way down over the last number of years.
Don't you have to fire him in order to make room for Kash Patel
Yeah,
if he is
but-
in fact confirmed?
Well, I mean, it would sort of seem pretty obvious that if Cash gets in, he's going to be taking somebody's place, right? And somebody is the man that you're talking about.
Okay, let's talk about Project 2025. This
Okay.
is the conservative policy blueprint. You disavowed it during the campaign. You called it a product of the radical right. You've said some of their
not all.
ideas
No,
were abysmal.
I said some of it is. Some of
Okay.
it is very good. Some of
Okay.
it's very mainstream, actually. Frankly, the Democrats should have used some of it because they went, you know, with all the transgender that they were doing and with the men playing in women's sports. If they wouldn't have done that, maybe they would have done better.
Well, so you take me to my question. You're now giving people involved in Project 2025 prominent roles in your administration. Are you changing your mind about Project 2025? Is this now the policy blueprint for the second Trump administration?
Some people, if you take a look at the group, it was hundreds of people were involved. And I was actually, I reprimanded the whole group. I said, you shouldn't have placed this document in front of the voters because I have nothing to do with it and I'm the one that's running. You had no right to do this where you put 1,000-page document in front, and many of those things I
Yeah.
disagree with. Now, many of those things I happen to agree with. Many of those things Democrats should have agreed to, and I think they would have done much better in the election because they got slaughtered.
Well, I guess people see the list: Russ Vought, Brendan Carr, Peter Navarro, John Ratcliffe, Pete Hoekstra, Monica Crowley, and they think these are all of the people who were involved in or writing Project 2025.
But they have-
This must be a blueprint for work
Yeah.
requirements, eliminating the Head Start program, criminalizing pornography. Is that what we can expect
Well, I
to
don't
see?
know how they voted. I don't know. I never spoke to them actually about it, and I purposely, and I told you, normally it would be just the opposite. I'd review every page. I purposely didn't even want to see it because when somebody like you asked me a question about Project 2025, I can honestly say I've never seen it. I have nothing to do with it. I didn't read it, but I did hear some things in there that I would totally disagree with. And I said to the people that were really the people behind it, you know who those people are? I said, you really had no right doing this to me because they used it as a soundbite, the Democrats. And I don't know, it couldn't have been too effective because they got slaughtered, but they did use it as a soundbite.
But to people who see, oh, he's bringing in all of these people from Project 2025, he must know what it is.
Well,
you say
know,
what?
I don't know what it is. No, I don't know what it is.
You still don't know
but
what
I
it is?
heard
All these
certain
people
things
are
that I
coming in
didn't
from
like.
your-
And by the way, I heard certain things that are phenomenal. Okay?
Like what?
Like law and order. We want law and order. Okay? Little things like let's put prisoners in jail. Let's not let people come out and raid every drugstore in Manhattan so that we have to put glass up and every store is going out of business.
Let me ask you about something you've referenced a couple of times in this interview. I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option. And the lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty. And you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees. But it turned out that I was right. Look at what's gone on. Everything's being dropped. I still have a Fani Willis, a total hoax. That's a total hoax. It's all being dropped. It's all been discredited. It's been dropped. There are those people that say, and this would be the first time in history, that all of those fake indictments, they were going after a political opponent. There are those that say that I actually did better in the election because of it. Now, that would be a first. I think you would agree, because normally that's like you go back to the microphones, you say, I'm leaving right now, I will leave office, I'm going back to my family, and I will fight for my name. Well, I had to fight for my name in public because I didn't leave office. But no, I didn't want to pardon, and I didn't want to pardon myself. I had the option to pardon myself.
And you don't want one now? You're not going to pardon
I don't
yourself
want,
now?
What do I need one for? First of all, I've won almost all of the cases.
What if
And
President
the ones that I
Biden-
didn't win are on resuscitation.
What if President Biden offered you a pardon? Would you accept it?
I've never even thought about it. I don't think he'll do it. Look, if he did, he's the one that started this whole thing. He got the Justice Department to go after me. And the state cases are all being run by the Justice Department, which is illegal. They had their people from the Justice Department work for Alvin Bragg in order to get something going. They worked for Letitia James in the state. He had his people go from the federal government and take lesser jobs in the state in order to get done.
And you know he denies he had anything to do with it.
No,
and
you
there's
can't
no-
deny it. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they were there. Wait a minute. Wait. You know, you have a tendency to sort of like slough over things. You just made a statement. His person, the top, maybe the third or second or third person, left the federal government, the DOJ, and went to work for Letitia James. And then, after they got that one started, went to work for the DA.
Let me ask you about some of this new reporting. NBC News is reporting that President Biden is considering giving preemptive pardons to the likes of Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. If President Biden doesn't issue those pardons, do you think they are going to wish that he had? Are they going to be pursued?
I can tell you this about Cheney, and she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move, especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total. And all of this stuff came out. People lied so badly. Now, listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir?
And Cheney was behind it.
Well,
and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee.
We're going to.
For what they did,
Yeah.
honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think
I think
should go to
everybody
jail.
anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and
No,
your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that,
on
it carries
strengthening the
weight,
law.
though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden can give him a pardon if he wants to, and maybe he should. Just remember, Unselect Committee, a year and a half of sworn testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it, and they destroyed almost everything. There's nothing left. It's unprecedented.
And they deny
If you
doing
do that in a civil case, you go to jail.
You know they deny doing that, and officials say that the order never came in for
They
the
put
National
out
Guard.
a statement.
On January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're going to want to
Thompson
answer
wrote in a
this.
statement that he has destroyed
Yeah.
all evidence.
Let me ask you this about
It's
January
amazing.
6th.
I wish you could be you have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen, if I did it, you would be standing up in that chair shouting at me. And you know what I'd do? I'd say, you got me. They have done something so illegal. They have a committee sworn to, and because it was so bad, the only reason they did it is because the testimony turned out to be in favor of me. Like Secret Service testified and disputed everything. It made them into a bunch of liars, not Secret Service, it made the people. They got rid of it because it made Nancy Pelosi, the mayor of D.C., so many people look like criminals. And I will tell you, it's illegal for them to delete and to destroy that evidence.
Let me ask you about January 6th in a different capacity, okay? I think you're going to want to answer this question. You promised to pardon those who had attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Are you still vowing to follow through with that promise?
We're looking at it right now, most likely, yeah.
Well,
Those people have suffered long and hard, and there may be some exceptions to it. I have to look. But, if somebody was radical, crazy, there might be some people from Antifa there. I don't know, because those people seem to be in good shape. Whatever happened to Scaffold Man? You know who Scaffold Man was? He stood on a scaffold telling everybody to go and nothing happened to him. Whatever happened to Ray Epps? Now, I don't know anything about Ray Epps, but it was sort of strange the way he was talking. Where is he? What happened to him? Because the people that did very little, they arrested an old woman because I don't think she did anything. They don't even know what she did. These people have suffered. Their lives have been destroyed. And yet in Portland, where they burn down half the city, they burn it down all the time. It's like a routine occurrence. They don't do anything. They attacked the courthouse, federal courthouse. They always say federal building. Okay. They destroyed the beautiful limestone exterior of the courthouse in Portland. They killed people in Portland. Seattle, people got killed in Seattle. Seattle, they took over a big chunk of the city. They took it over. They took the city away. Minneapolis, it looked like when they said this is a friendly protest, and yet over the poor slob from CNN, his shoulder, the entire city was burning down. It looked like World War II. Nothing happened. But wait, nothing happened. They took over the police station. They took over the police station in Minneapolis. They burned it down. Nothing happened to anybody. And yet these people have been in jail, and I hear that jail is a hellhole. They've done reports, and you would say that's true. They've done reports. This is the most disgusting, filthy place. These people are living in hell. And I think it's very unfair. Most likely I'll do it very quickly.
Very quickly. Okay, but some of them, 169 of them, have pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers.
Because they had no choice.
900 pleaded guilty to other crimes. They're also going to be eligible for a pardon from you?
Listen, it's a very tough system. Do you know almost nobody? I saw people that didn't even go into the building and they were convicted. And you had the police saying, come on in, come on in. I mean, the police are saying, come on in, everybody, come on in. They had people, you have a lot of cameras. They don't want to release the tapes. They don't want to release the tapes.
So, but you're going to consider pardoning even those who've pleaded guilty to crimes, including assaulting police officers?
Well, sometimes they say, here's your choice.
You're not ruling it out?
Look, I know the system. The system's a very corrupt system. They say to a guy, you're going to go to jail for 2 years or for 30 years. And these guys are looking, their whole lives have been destroyed. For 2 years, they've been destroyed. But the system is a very nasty system.
Okay. Let's
I'm going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases,
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there, how long is it, 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
By the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
Let's talk about your cabinet picks. I know we started off talking about Pete Hegseth, but I just want to return to that very quickly. Have you gotten assurances from senators that he's going to be confirmed? Do you think he can make it?
No. I think you will, yeah. I've had a lot of senators call me up saying he's fantastic.
You don't drink yourself.
No.
You've talked about how devastating drinking can be.
No.
How concerned are you that the person who you picked for this top job at the Defense Department, at least according to those who've worked with him, has struggled with drinking?
But I've spoken to people that know him very well, and they say he does not have a drinking problem. Right. And, he had a lot of knives out for him. A lot of people don't want to see the military made better.
Let me ask you about former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. You picked her to be the Director of National Intelligence.
Right.
In 2017, she had 2 secret meetings with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. Do you have questions or concerns about those meetings?
No. And he's got bigger problems right now.
Well, do you think it
Because
makes
his
it hard for her?
His country is collapsing.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it compromises her ability to handle that?
I met with Putin. I met with President Xi of China. I met with Kim Jong-un twice. Does that mean that I can't be president?
Well, when you were president, they weren't
No,
secret
but look,
meetings.
people meet. All these people meet. I mean, I see some of the most dishonest people. I'll tell you, the 51 agents that said that the laptop wasn't from Hunter, it was from Russia. What about them? Tell me about them. Do you think they did something wrong? Do you think they were all so stupid that they thought that the laptop from hell?
So you have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard?
I do. So does I mean, she's a very respected person.
Let me ask you about RFK Jr. He has obviously talked about his skepticism of vaccines. He's expressed opposition to childhood vaccines. Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look,
So possibly?
when you look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000, and now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Well,
I mean, what's happening? If they can find it. Now, I did something the other night that was a little unusual. At Mar-a-Lago, I called the drug companies, the top drug companies, and I called RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz and some of his people. And I said, let's all get together and let's figure out where we're going. Because we're going to do a lot of things. Number one, we're going to reduce prices because the middleman makes more money than the drug companies, in all fairness to the drug companies. There's a middleman that nobody even knows who they are. And you look at our drug prices, they're much higher than the prices for the same medicine, for the same stuff. So we met, and we met for a long time, and we talked about pricing, and we talked about vaccines, in terms of what happens. We talked about pesticides. We talked about everything. And I think a lot of good things are going to come from him. And he's not going to upset any system. He's not going to upset this. He's not looking to, to reinvent the wheel totally. But when you look at the numbers, we really don't have a very healthy country.
well, sir, going back 25 years, studies show that there is no link between vaccines and autism. And yet it sounds like you are open to the possibility of him looking
I'm
at
open to
getting rid of
anything.
them.
I think somebody has to find out. If you go back 25 years ago, you had very little autism. Now you have it. I mean,
Well, they say because they're better at identifying it.
1 in 100,000, and now it's 1 in 100. That's a pretty bad number.
Childhood vaccines
I mean,
have
something is going on. I don't know if it's vaccines. Maybe it's chlorine in the water, right? People are looking at a lot of different things.
Childhood
I
vaccines.
want them to look at everything.
Everything. So childhood vaccines have prevented about 4 million deaths around the world every year.
I think that's
sir.
great.
Isn't that?
I'm all for it. I think it's great. Hey, look, I'm not against vaccines. The polio vaccine is the greatest thing. If somebody told me get rid of the polio vaccine, they're going to have to work real hard to convince me. I think certain vaccines are incredible, but maybe some aren't. And if they aren't, we have to find out. But when you talk about autism, because it was brought up, and you look at the amount we have today versus 20 or 25 years ago, it's pretty scary.
Well, again, scientists say that's because they've gotten better at
I think we're gonna
identifying it,
know.
and there's
Yeah.
no link in
But
studies.
the drug
sir.
companies are going to be working with RFK Jr. and he's been an interesting guy to me. I've watched him for 25 years, and he's been an interesting guy.
Let's talk about Elon Musk, another interesting person.
He's very interesting.
Last month, one of your allies said, quote, he's behaving as if he's a co-president. Will you favor Elon Musk over other leaders of competitor companies like Jeff Bezos, Mary Barra?
No, Jeff Bezos called me. We're having dinner. As you know, Mark Zuckerberg came in. We had a really nice dinner. He asked to have dinner. I had dinner with him. I'm having dinner with everybody. People like me now. It's something going on that people. I said, would you have come to dinner with me if I lost? I think the answer is no. I said nicely, kiddingly, of course, because I don't want to sound foolish. But I say jokingly, would you have been here at dinner if I lost? And the answer was probably not. Look, I'm getting called by everybody. It's very interesting. It's different than the first. When I won the first time, I wasn't nearly as popular as this. And one thing that's very important in terms of the election, I love that I won the popular vote, and by a lot. If I didn't,
1.6%.
because they would go with the other one. They say, while he didn't win the popular vote, he won a lot of. I won a lot of the Electoral College, but they would always preface it by saying, now they say he won the popular vote and he won the Electoral College and he won all 7 swing states. That was a great election.
Very quickly, because we're going to talk about the election coming up, but you've tapped Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, to head up this Department of Government Efficiency.
Correct.
Which proposes cuts to the federal government. I think a lot of people hear that and they get concerned about Medicare and Social Security and
Not
Medicaid.
going to have anything to do.
And defense spending.
We're talking
You
about
won't touch
theft,
Medicare, Social Security?
abuse, fraud.
Okay.
No, I said to people, we're not touching Social Security, other than we make it more efficient, but the people are going to get what they're getting.
Okay, so the entitlements
And
off the table.
we're not raising ages or any of that stuff.
Okay,
No,
off the table.
I won't do it.
Okay. Let's turn to foreign policy. Should Ukraine prepare for less aid from the United States after you're sworn into
Possibly,
office?
yeah, probably. Sure.
You've said you can end the war in
We're in
24
for 350 billion, and Europe is in for 100 billion. Why isn't Europe in for the same as us? The one thing that should happen is that Europe should come in they should equalize. And, Biden, all he had to do, like I did with NATO, I said, you got to pay your bills. They weren't paying their bills. And as you know, the Secretary General said, President Trump got $600 billion, no, 640 to be exact. And I used to use the 400 billion number. He corrected me. He said, no, you actually got $641 billion put in, because I said you have to pay your bills. We were paying for NATO. And you know why I got the money? Because I asked for it. It wasn't that complicated. Europe is in for a fraction. And war with Russia is more important for Europe than it is for us. It's important for everybody, but it's more important for Europe than it is for us.
And you've said
we have a little thing called an ocean in between us.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn
Well, I'm
into
trying
office.
to.
Before
I'm trying to end it
you're
if I
actively
can.
trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin
No, I have
since
not.
you've been
You
elected?
mean, well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've
I
been
don't
elected?
want to say that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
But you
I want to
have
stop
talked
it.
about
Let me
the
tell you
other
what I
world
have talked
leaders.
about. Let me tell
Okay.
you. There are people being killed in that war at levels that nobody's ever seen before. You have to go back to the Second World War, and even that, if you take a look at, and you know what it is? It's the soldiers largely. The cities have been emptied out and demolished. The country has been demolished. If I won that election, which you know how I feel about it, I won't get into it because we don't need to start that argument. I think it's an easy argument. It was really proven even more conclusively by the win that I had on this one. But
you did go
had
to court,
I,
sir. You did.
well, that's your opinion,
Yeah,
but I
okay.
disagree with it. Had I kept control, number one, Israel wouldn't have happened. Number two, Ukraine would have never happened. It would have never happened, Ukraine, Russia. But the number of people that are being killed, soldiers, young, beautiful soldiers, hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. And it's very interesting. It's level, totally level. The battlefields, totally level. You know what's happening?
Yeah.
The only thing that stops a bullet, you know what it is a body, a human body. And the people that are being killed, hundreds of thousands on both sides. Russia's lost probably 500,000.
Devastating.
Ukraine's lost higher than they say, probably 400,000. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of bodies laying all over fields. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it should have never been allowed to happen. Biden should have been able to stop it.
Sir, will the United States stay in NATO while you're in office?
In where?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taken advantage of us because we were look, two things. Number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European nations, okay, like terrible. They don't take our cars, they don't take our food product, they don't take anything. It's a disgrace. And on top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. So let me just tell you, I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said to the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay. And they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. It's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight. If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely, I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of getting it.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Let's turn to the Middle East now, sir. There are still American hostages being held in Gaza.
Yeah.
You said this week that if the hostages aren't released before Inauguration Day, quote, there will be all hell to pay.
Correct.
What exactly did you mean? And do you still think that the hostages are alive?
I'm not a big believer in the fact that there are too many of them living, sadly, because I've seen the way they've been treated. I talk about the young girl that was pulled by her hair violently and thrown into the back of a car like she was a sack of potatoes. And I said, that's hatred. And then I said, how did that young girl do? Beautiful young girl just dragged by her hair. You remember, blood pouring all over her body. You can imagine the parents thrown into the back of a car by some horrible guy. And I said, how is she? She's dead. She died, sir. I don't think you have as many. I mean, I hate to say it. I think you have far fewer hostages than people think.
Really?
That's what I think. It's only my opinion, but
Okay.
I've been right on just about everything.
Are you going to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu, with whom you have a very good relationship, to end the war in Gaza?
Yeah, sure.
And
I
have
want
you
him to
already
end it.
started that process?
I want him to end it, but you got to have a victory. People forget about October 7th. That was as violent. And you know what's happening? I noticed that a lot of people are saying, oh, it never really happened. That's like the Holocaust. You have Holocaust deniers. Now you have October 7th deniers, and it just happened. No, October 7th happened. And I've seen the pictures. What happened is horrible.
If China invades Taiwan on your watch, are you committed to defending Taiwan?
I never say.
Still won't say.
I never say because I have to negotiate things, right?
Can you just say if you'll defend
prefer
it? I'm
that
not
they
saying if
don't.
the U.S. military.
I'd prefer that they don't do it. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. We have been communicating with each other.
Since you were elected?
Yes.
And you
since
sent that message?
Since like 3 days ago. Yes, we communicate.
And you sent that message to him, don't invade
We didn't talk
Taiwan?
about that.
Okay.
We talked about other things. But I have a very good relationship, and I hope he doesn't do it.
This week, a federal court upheld a law that could result in TikTok being banned. You said you're going to rescue TikTok when you get into office. Are you going to take
Well, the
steps
problem
to
with the
protect
TikTok,
it?
Yeah, and as you know, I
You are?
used TikTok very successfully in my campaign. I have a man named TikTok Jack. He was very effective, obviously, because I won youth by 30%. All Republicans lose youth. I don't know why. Maybe it's changing. And last time we were down 30% with youth. This time we're up 35% with youth. And I use TikTok, so I can't really, I can't totally hate it. It was very effective. But I will say this, if you do that, something else is going to come along and take its place. And maybe that's not fair. What they're doing, and really what the judge actually said was that you can't have Chinese companies. In other words, they have the right to ban it if you can prove that the Chinese companies own it. That's what the judge actually
So are you
said.
going to try to protect TikTok just very quick once you're in office?
I'm going to try and make it so that other companies don't become an even bigger monopoly,
Okay.
because that's what happens.
We're winding down, and I know you have a plane to catch.
I do.
This is your first interview since
right.
you won the election.
Congratulations.
Yes,
I hope you do
congratulations
well.
to you.
I hope you do well with it.
Yes, and sir, I don't have to tell you this because you've talked about it. It comes at a time when the country is deeply divided. And now you're going to be leading this country for the next 4 years. For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the 2020 election and turn the page on that chapter?
No. Why would I do that? But let me just tell you,
You
when
won't
you say
ever
the
concede.
country is deeply divided, I'm not the president. Joe Biden's the president.
But you're going to be the president.
No. I'm not the president. So when you say it's deeply divided, I agree. But Biden's the president, I'm not. And he has been a divider. And you know where he divided it more than anything else, and it probably backfired on him, I think definitely, is weaponization. When he weaponized the Justice Department and he went after his political opponent, me, he went after his political opponent violently because he knew he couldn't beat him. And I think it really was a bad thing. And it really divided our country.
Sir, Democrats have control of the White House now. They didn't in 2020. If they are going around stealing elections, why
When you
didn't
say
they do it
Democrats
this
have
time?
control now,
Of the White House.
yeah,
So why didn't they steal this election? Since they have more power now.
Because I think it was too big to rig.
So you won't,
Too big to rig.
to the people who say that you're now directing your Justice Department to investigate 2020
no,
and they want to move
I have
on.
very capable.
Is
I
that
think
a
Pam
good
is going to
use
be
of
great.
precious resources?
By the way,
Is that what you
just so
want
you
them
know-
to do?
Just so you know, I have the right to do that, but I'm not interested in that.
Oh, you're
I
not.
wanna-
You're not
I
gonna
wanna
do that.
I'm not interested. I have
Okay.
the absolute right. I'm the chief law enforcement officer. You do know that. I'm the president. But I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm interested in? Drilling and getting prices down and stopping people from pouring into our border that come from prisons and mental institutions.
Last two questions here. One of the things that made this campaign unprecedented and extraordinary were the horrific attempts against your life. 2 assassination attempts. Do you feel safe going into the White House
I do.
for the next 4 years? Why?
I have confidence in Secret Service. I know the people. I got to know a lot of them, and I have confidence. It was a bad moment. Something shouldn't have happened. But I have a lot of confidence, and they've really stepped it up. They were restricted from giving the look. I do a rally, and you were at many of them, and I'd have 50,000 people. Joe would have a rally, and he'd have 30 people, and he had more Secret Service than me. My Secret Service was always asking for more manpower / women power. They were asking for more and more and more, and they couldn't get it. I'm not blaming them really, because they were always fighting for more people, and they wouldn't get. Now, boy, do we have it.
I know it was hard on your entire family. What can people expect from the First Lady in this second administration? What role will she play? She obviously had her Be Best campaign.
She's very liked, loved, and she's very respected, and she's a very solid person, and she devotes a lot of time to helping children. You know what she does, and she's got her Be Best a deal that is incredible what she's done. The one thing I say, whether it's First Lady or my children did such a good job, and they were treated very badly by the press and others. Ivanka was unbelievable what she did, and she all she wanted to do is one thing: get people jobs. She could have been the UN secretary. I said to her, she would have been unbelievable. She's got the whole package for that, including right up there. She's as smart as they. She didn't want. She said, "Daddy, I want to work on getting people jobs." You know, she'd go to Walmart, she'd go to X such a. She produced millions of jobs for people. Not glamorous. Most people didn't know she did it, and she was always being excoriated. And I said to my kids, "Don't come in. Don't come in. It's just."
You said to them, "Don't."
I said to them, "Yeah." I said
But will you miss having them there? Will it
I'll
feel
miss 'em.
different? They were your
I'll miss
top
'em, and
advisors.
I'll tell you what, I'll miss them, and they're really competent. But I say, just go have fun, do your business, do whatever you want to do, but don't come in, because no matter what they did such a great job. Although I have to say, Lara did a phenomenal job as the head of the Republican National Committee, along with Michael.
What will the First Lady's role be, do you think? Will she continue her Be Best campaign?
She's a very elegant First Lady. She was a very successful woman before that in the modeling and other things, but in the modeling, very successful. The press, I can't say treated her unfairly. You know why? Because she's very popular. You would think if the press was unfair, like to me, the press was obviously unfair to me. The press, no president has ever gotten treated by the press like I was. And yet I got more votes than any Republican candidate in history. By far. It's not even close. So you say, what's that all about? The press has to straighten itself out, because honestly, it's lost all credibility. When that can happen, based on the press, I should have gotten no votes. None. And yet I got the highest number ever. And the reason is because I'm able to go on a show, even like yours, even though you're very hostile, I'm able to go on a show like yours. No, you are.
Well, hopefully you thought it was a fair interview. We covered a lot of policy ground.
It's
here
fair
today.
only in that you allowed me to say what I say. But, you know, the answers, the questions are, you know, pretty nasty. But look, because I've seen you interview other people like Biden. And
I've never interviewed President Biden.
when I
actually.
say you, I'm talking metaphorically.
Okay.
I've seen George Stephanopoulos interview Biden. And he's a tough interviewer. It's the softest interview. I've seen CNN interview him. They give these soft, you know, what's your favorite ice cream? It's a whole different deal. I don't understand why. You know, you would think the press would like to see strong borders, great education, a powerful military, so we have a country left, and all these different things. And somehow they don't want to see that.
Let me ask you, hopefully you think this interview was fair. We spent a lot of time talking about your policy in your second administration. I want to ask you, sir, one final question. What do you want to say to Americans who didn't support you in this campaign?
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA. We're going to treat everybody good. We want success for our country. We want safety for our country. You know, our country's under threat, as you know. We have a tremendous threat militarily because of the power of weapons and weaponry. It's a tremendous threat. Nobody talks about it, but it's a tremendous threat. I want to treat everybody the same. I want to treat them well. And at the end of this 4 years, and I have a big head start because I was there for 4 years fairly recently. A lot of bad things were done during the 4 years that I wasn't there, and mostly in what they've done in terms of our reputation overseas. Our reputation is so bad, so shot. I got to bring it back, and I also have to bring back civilization to our country. Our country is a crime pot, and we have to get rid of crime. We have so many things to do. We have to do the prices. We have to do all of that. But we have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to bring down crime. People have to be able to walk across the street and buy a loaf of bread without being shot. And that's going to happen. But what I say to them is, I love you, and we're going to all work together. And we're going to bring it together. And you know what's going to bring it together? Success. I saw that just prior to COVID coming in. I had polls that were the highest anyone. McLaughlin and Fabrizio said George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back from the dead and they ran as president and vice president, couldn't beat you, sir. We were doing so well. And I was getting along with the left. Let's call it the left. We'll be nice. Okay, we're just going to call it. But I was getting along with people that you would consider liberal or progressive, as they like to say, at levels that I never thought was possible. And you know what it was? Success. Success was bringing the country together, and that's what I want to do.
We'll leave it there unless you'd like to say anything more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the honor of
Great
this
honor.
first interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social
What are
media.
your thoughts on that interview? It was kind of silly, some of them questions. Like, we get it. Stop asking the same shit over and over and over, the same dumb shit. What about Project 2025? Oh, brother. Oh, brother. She was biased, but
Let's talk about the story. United Healthcare CEO gets murked by a hitman. Now, of course, I must urge you not to Fed post in this chat, even though I think this is one of the first instances where I've ever seen so much
Get on full screen.
universal support for something that is so criminal. You know what I mean? Honestly, I don't know. We're living in interesting times. We're living in scary times. We're living in interesting times. Let's take a look at the story.
Style killing. The killer is at large, but he left behind a trail of clues here at the scene that may lead police to him and to a possible motive, suggesting anger with the insurance industry. This morning, a frantic manhunt for the man authorities.
So this dude, big homie over here, okay, Mr. CEO, walking up to his hotel, okay, having a wonderful day. You know, he's like, man, I can't wait to get a child with cancer, no coverage, so their family is saddled with medical debt. You know, just a regular old day for Mr. CEO. He's just like, walking over to my medical conference where I'm going to go, you know, hang out with a bunch of other CEOs and we're going to talk about how many claims we denied. I assume that's what's happening in the mind of a healthcare CEO on any given Sunday, right? Like, you got to be constantly thinking like, man, $35 billion in pure profit this year. What a banger. Artificial intelligence Americans to deny claims, 90% of which are actually wrong. What a fantastic invention I engaged in. The medical innovation. Oh my Lord, the amount of coverage that we can just deny because we made up some random AI thing. So sick. Like, that's probably what's going on in his mind, okay? I mean, he's up early. That's Sigma grind set. It's 6 a.m. He up early as hell thinking about all the ways in which he's going to ruin the lives of tens of thousands of Americans. Because if you're that rich and that's your job, why the are you up at 6 a.m.? You know what I mean? Like, why are you up 6 a.m.? Turns out this guy, he out grind-setted the grind-set CEO. Turns out he's up at 6 a.m. This motherfucker's up at 4 a.m., okay? There's always a guy out there working harder, working smarter. He was like, oh yeah, you're up at 6 a.m.? Guess what, dude? You're down at 6:30, okay? That's what he said. Walks up to him, bloom, blap, bloom. Now, those weren't the sounds that came out of that gun, because as you can see, this is a very long barrel. Guess what? That's not a barrel. That is a silencer. That's right. Now, the interesting part about that is, no, this was not a fart. It was silent but deadly, but it was not a fart. Okay, it was a suppressor on his pistol, and most likely using subsonic rounds as well. That's the speculation on why he had to constantly like rechamber after, what is that what's called? Like when your gun is jamming, basically, which was really crazy because it looked like an open and shut, like professional case. And the reason why I say that is because he was so cool throughout this entire process. I don't mean cool like, oh my God, he's like swagged out. That's a totally separate conversation. I mean, like, he was cool as a cucumber. Like, he was very calm throughout this process. He was very thorough. Now, people were saying that maybe it was because he wanted to get the casings after every shot, like collected, professional hitman style, Sicario style. Turns out he wanted to leave the casings there, as a matter of fact, because he wrote stuff on the casings. He wrote stuff on the shells, which is wild. And when I first saw the story and I saw the media coverage over it, I thought it was very funny that people were like, this healthcare CEO got executed in broad daylight in the middle of New York City, and the motive is unknown. And I was like, yeah, no, I think the motive is known. Like, it's one of those guys where I don't think this was a gay lovers quarrel, I don't think this was like, oh, his ex-wife called out a hit on him. Like, it's like, that would be a unique setting. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those situations where it's like, if you heard Vladimir Putin got assassinated, you wouldn't be like, I wonder what the motive is here. You know what I mean? Like, there's many motives in that situation, but like I doubt someone is doing that over the anger that they feel towards some kind of new tax that Vladimir Putin implemented.
This video shooting and killing Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Police said it was no
What's crazy is motherfucker was wearing a quarter zip in this profile picture. Like, at this point, it's such a meme. Like, these guys, they love their quarter zips, dude. I'm sorry. Like, what are we doing, dude? Why? You took a headshot, no pun intended, and you were repping the quarter zip in the headshot. What are we doing here? What's going on? Y'all don't got nothing else? You just got quarter zips?
Every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
The gun appears to have a silencer and jammed. When the shooter cleared it, police say he fired again.
From watching the video, it does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly.
All units be advised in regards.
So that's a really interesting predicament, because on the one hand, I don't know enough about guns, at least like suppressors and subsonic rounds, but like, I feel like if he was like a massive pro, I suspect that like some things that he did made me think that he is professional, but some things that he did made me not feel like he's professional. I feel like when he has a suppressor on, shouldn't you be testing that at some point to make sure that it doesn't jam? Am I wrong about this? Gun perverts, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel as though, like, is it that inconsistent that even if you have a pistol, even if you have a suppressor, even if you test it out ahead of time, it still has the capacity to jam? So like, that kind of made me feel like maybe this is not a pro, but also the fact that he cleared it and walked slowly and continued, eyes on the prize, that made me think he is a pro. The gun isn't jamming. Subsonic rounds don't have enough power to move the slide all the way. Yeah, that's what I assume. But the fact he was proficient in clearing the jam means he was expecting it to jam. Yeah, I mean, I feel like putting myself in his shoes in a situation, not when I'm like, executing the fucking CEO of a healthcare company that is responsible for denied coverage to tens of thousands of Americans. I'm just saying, like, in a situation where like I'm shooting a gun at a range and it jams, I don't have the technical proficiency to deal with it. I'm going to freak the out. The fact that he was able to clear it while continuing to walk made me feel like he knew what he was doing. Interesting stuff. So yeah, United Healthcare CEO is shot. A real doop, doop, doop situation. Okay. The guy just walks away. That is obviously an interesting story in and of itself, but I think one of the more interesting aspects of this story isn't even necessarily like the casings that he left on scene that said the words deny, defend, and depose, according to ABC News, which, by the way, is very similar to title of the book, Delay, Deny, Defend, Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It by J.M. Feynman. Shooter of United Healthcare Chief Executive Brian Thompson wrote Deny, Defend, Depose on the shell casings. The words echo the name of a book about how insurers won't pay claims. It's an earthquake for corporate America.
Police say it was around 6:45 a.m. Wednesday when the suspect, pictured at a Starbucks before the shooting, gunned down Thompson as he was walking alone into the Hilton for an investors conference. And in new video overnight, the shooter seen here about 20 minutes before the shooting.
They're looking for a male about 5 feet 10 inches in height.
Yo, by the way, don't get mad at me. I don't want to be like inappropriate here, but he looks kind of hot, dude. I cannot be the only person who immediately went, wow, clearly this guy has interesting style and also is kind of attractive, which is part of the reason why I thought if they catch him and he gets his message out and he's hot, it's going to be a far more consequential problem. They should let him go. Honestly, I'm not even joking when I say this. They should let him go, because if they catch him and they arrest him and then he gets to talk and says, this is why I did it, it's gonna be a Shinzo Abe situation. It already has become a Shinzo Abe situation. And that's actually the truly interesting part about this story. Now, America, we have gun violence all day, every day. And usually the gun violence that occurs is some random guy who loses their minds for one reason or another, ends up killing some of the most marginalized people in society. It's either a white supremacist teenager who wants to kill like black and brown people. You go to El Paso, to Walmart in El Paso, shoots like as many brown people as possible, goes to a black neighborhood deliberately in Buffalo, shoots as many black people as possible. Is either stuff like that, or again, someone who's like very clearly mentally ill that goes and like kills classmates, right? That's the norm. It's not the norm. And I said this when Donald Trump was shot. It's not the norm when you got a shooter who's like, I'm actually going to do something consequential. I'm actually going to effectively identify where the vectors of my demise are, and I'm going to target them. That's not normal. And that's precisely the reason why when it's business as usual mass shootings, everybody goes, ugh, thoughts, prayers, whatever, right? But when this happens, they're like, whoa, you can't do that. That's a rich guy. That's an important guy. That's a guy who has power. You can't do that. That's not allowed. Go school children. The f do you mean? The f do you mean you killed a goddamn United Healthcare CEO? Excuse me? Those are your lords and your masters. What do you mean? No, you're supposed to take your anger out on random Americans, dumbass. It's really interesting when a peasant rises up against the Lord, What I realized is when I see situations like that, maybe it's because I cover so much death and so much destruction that like, it doesn't really faze me that much. I mean, I'm always like, that's interesting. It's usually the approach that I have. I didn't realize I wasn't alone. I thought I was alone. I thought there was something wrong with my brain, People took it way further than me. You go on TikTok. I went on TikTok. I saw the news coverage and I would look at the comments and literally everyone in the comments was like, oh my God, can you more CEOs, please? I was like, what the f? What do you mean? Hello? On Facebook, on your grandpappy's Kalans meet, motherfuckers are out there celebrating, okay? What is going on? On Facebook, the United Healthcare Facebook account, which is such a funny thing, like, what the f do you have a Facebook account, United Healthcare? Anyway, they did that. They posted about the death of their CEO, and the post got 21,000 smiley face responses, like laughing, crying. Can you imagine, motherfuckers named Deborah and Barbara clicking on the post with like the 18 font and their tongue sticking out like they're and picking the crying my face off laughing emoji to respond to it 21,000 times. Now it's at 44, 50,000. The Debras and the Barbaras are the ones who are not supposed to be saying that. Look, this is crazy. Look, United Health Group. We are deeply saddened and shocked at the passing of our dear friend and colleague, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Brian was a highly respected colleague and friend to all who work with him. We are working closely with the New York Police Department and ask for your patience and understanding during this difficult time. Our hearts go out to Brian's family and all who were close to him. 41,000 ha-has. Only 2.2 thousand kind of sad crying faces. 42,000 ha-has? No, people are now saying it's 51K now. And it's like yet another instance where I think mainstream media and like all of the reputable outlets, reputable institutions, and everyone that's like covering this is diametrically opposed to the way that the overwhelming majority of the population is approaching the subject matter. Like the media is like thoughts and prayers. This person had a family, which is really interesting to say, and I'll get to that in a moment. I'll say it now. This person had a family. Yeah, you know who else has a family? The cancer patient who got their coverage denied. You know what I mean? Like this person had a family. That's crazy. I know. Okay. So does Bashar al-Assad. So does Vladimir Putin. Okay. This person had a family. So did Ted Bundy, you know, but most people were like this. Most people had this take. I'm sorry. Prior authorization is required for thoughts and prayers. 15,000 likes. Sending prior authorization, denied claims, collections, and prayers to his family. 16,000 likes. Was his trip to the ER really emergent? According to his own company, my husband's heart attack wasn't an emergency, and we were out $3K, full deductible, 5,000 likes. It's crazy what my first thought was. And then I look at the comments and realize I'm not alone in my thoughts. 1,000 likes. I just can't find the care. Maybe if they ask for pre-approval of my care, then after they care, their required deductible, I might be able to supplement some care. I can't even pretend to care. I hope he's looking up at us. If you're a CEO in one of these sectors, I'm not gonna lie, dog, like quit or, you know, bankrupt the company and then start advocating for full-blown healthcare, full communist healthcare, okay? Because goddamn, it's not me. I look, you're a titan of enterprise, okay? And so am I. You know, I'm a rich guy myself. I would never say anything like that. But it seems like other people are saying it. Not me. Can't catch me slipping. I'm not saying it, but other people certainly are saying it. That's what I saw. I saw this and I thought to myself, damn, people are really upset about their health care. Then I thought to myself, if only there was a guy who wanted Medicare for all. If he was president, that motherfucker would probably be alive right now. I mean, it's true. Literally. Maybe he wouldn't have made like $900 gorillion last year, but you know, he'd still be alive. You know what I'm saying? What's the JFK quote? Those who make peace impossible make violent retribution inevitable. Something along those lines, you know? I think about that a lot. Or was it MLK? Leftists are evil for wishing for people's deaths. Wishing for people's deaths. Dog, if you think, and I'm being so for real right now, okay? I'm being so for real with you. You can fantasize about this all day, every day. Like, oh, it's the leftists that are doing it. If you think 51,000 socialists are posting ha-has on Facebook, you might have gotten shot in the head too. There might be a bullet lodged in your brain, okay? Maybe you could be like, oh, TikTok, like they're all little commies or whatever. No, dog, it's your neighbor and probably your aunt, okay? The people who are excited about this is not just like some random card-carrying commie that you fantasized about. It's your aunt, okay? In between herself to old reruns of Steve Harvey, she posted haha on the United Healthcare Facebook post. That's your aunt, dog. Go check in with her. Stop fantasizing about card-carrying socialists that want death upon everybody, okay? Unless you think your aunt is picked up a copy of Mao's Red Book or something. I'm gonna be so real with you. This is like way beyond the normal lefties want blood attitude. I'm not kidding. If we ran a poll right now, straight up, if we ran a poll in America, if any polling company was brave enough to run a poll right now, anonymous, how many people think the killer should go free? You would be shocked by the results, okay? You would be shocked straight up. If any polling company has the balls, they should run this poll. The last time I was ever shocked in the United States of America was when they burned that police precinct down after George Floyd. And then they polled Americans on it. And it was like 80% was like, we know why they did it. That is the last time I've ever been like, damn, things are different. This was a funny ass tweet I saw. My husband hasn't posted anything on the internet in years. He didn't even post the photos of our wedding, and he posted this. The hatred that people have for healthcare CEOs, the hatred people have for CEOs aside, and they hate CEOs, I think, but the hatred that they specifically have for healthcare CEOs, like, dude, oh my God. Oh my Lord. Things are interesting. You can't deny it. It's a shame the only political party interested in capitalizing on the rage Americans feel that this unjust society is the one who wants to direct it at immigrants and trans people. Democrats instead are like, it's disgraceful of you to be mad at our friends for killing you. It's true. It's straight up. That was my first interpretation of all the ways in which people analyze this unconscionable act of violence. Chat, let me just say, I want to stress this importance, okay? I do not condone the assassination of insurance CEOs, healthcare CEOs. I do not condone it. I condemn it. I condemn. Just want to get it out of the way, you know? Just want to say it off the rip. I don't want anybody clipping anything else and running around. Maybe 6 years later, I'm at a debate stage and someone comes up and is like, at a time when there's a lot of political violence, don't you feel responsible for healthcare insurance executives getting assassinated? You know, I don't want none of that. Yeah, little bro will put the condemnation in the bag. Okay, I will. Kind of lame. But having said that, having gotten my condemnations out of the way, my very serious, my very sincere condemnations out of the way, it is very interesting. It is very interesting. I would never say it, but what I'm seeing other people say, oh my God, okay? I would never say it. You can't even catch me thinking it. But what I have seen from others, Medicare for on the ballot, 100% of the votes, okay? Full table sweep. I'm not saying nothing, but it does seem like people are very mad about the healthcare situation in this country. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it, but many people are. Let's talk about this. Claim denial rates by insurance companies. Now, United Healthcare happens to be at the tippy top right after Medica there, as you can see, all right? This that leads to tens of thousands of people dying, just so you know. All of this leads to tens of thousands of people dying every year. Now, the problem is, this kind of death is handled by so many people, so many hands touch it. And not only that, but it's streamlined and it's legal. And perhaps more importantly, it's at the behest of the profit motive. When those three things are combined, most people, even if they feel it in their hearts that it's like no different than murder, they don't necessarily have the same analysis. That's why you don't think of this guy as like a ruthless warlord who's individually, killing children and babies, even though his actions are directly responsible for it. And yes, very famously, champagne socialist Frederick Engels, gay lover of Karl Marx, he called this concept social murder, the unnatural death that occurs due to social, political, or economic oppression. He coined this in the 1845 work, The Condition of the Working Class in England, whereby the class which at present holds social and political control, i.e. the bourgeoisie, places hundreds of proletarians in such a position that they inevitably meet a too early and unnatural death. This was in a different category to murder and manslaughter committed by individuals against one another, as social murder explicitly was committed by the political and social elite against the poorest in society. And social murder is invisible in many ways. It's very visible when it happens to a loved one, but the way that society is designed, especially under capitalism, the system is designed so that you don't really realize who's doing this. When one individual inflicts bodily injury upon another such that death results, we call that deed manslaughter. When the assailant knew in advance that the injury would be fatal, we call his deed murder. But when society places hundreds of proletarians in such a position that they inevitably meet a too early and unnatural death, one which is quite as much a death by violence as that by the sword or bullet, falling into a chimney. I think they had chimney sweeps back then. Like little kids would die when they were doing chimney sweeps. That kind of stuff. Or maybe when your healthcare coverage is denied and then you die. Or you kill yourself because you can't take on the 60 grand in medical debt, or you choose not to get the proper medical attention because you can't pay for it. That sort of stuff. That's what factors into the social death. When a worker is in such a place, in such a position that they inevitably meet a too early and unnatural death, one which is quite as much a death by violence as by sword or a bullet, when it deprives thousands of the necessities of life, places them under the conditions in which they cannot live, forces them through the strong arm of the law to remain in such conditions until that death ensues, which is the inevitable consequence, knows that these thousands of victims must perish and yet permits these conditions to remain, its deed is murder, just as surely as the deed of a single individual, disguised, malicious murder, murder against which none can defend himself, which does not seem what it is, because no man sees the murderer, because the death of the victim seems a natural one, since the offense is more one of omission than of commission, but murder it remains. And that's precisely what this is. This dichotomy exists within state violence as well. State retains a monopoly of violence, and therefore when the state engages in very violent ways, it is not considered violence. But when an individual fights back against the state, then it's violence. That's why when police use tear gas on unsuspecting protesters, it's not considered to be a violent act. That's why newspapers say violence broke out when protesters kicked back the tear gas canisters in the direction of the police. So that's what it is. That's what exactly this is, right? That's what happened here. And I think a lot of people, even if they don't fully understand that this person is responsible for a lot of death and destruction, I think that they are getting there. Does that make sense? I think people are angry and they're recognizing a little bit why they're angry. That's all I'm saying. But let's get back to our shooter.
By the time police arrived, the suspect had run off and hopped a bicycle to get away. Detectives now working to determine whether he had pre-positioned that bike close by. New video overnight showing the suspect pedaling his bike on the Upper West Side. Officers found the 50-year-old...
No way. He's just still biking around?
Working to determine whether he had pre-positioned that bike close by. New video overnight showing the suspect pedaling his...
Do we even know that that's the guy? Because what he's wearing is such a normal fit. It could be anyone, really. I don't think that's the guy. I think the cops should just give up on looking for this guy. It could be anybody. I don't think that, innocent victims should get caught in the process and be harassed. I feel like that's not him. It's not the same bike. It doesn't look like the same guy. It just looks like a different guy. Why are we harassing random civilians? You know what I mean? Like, I saw the dude's face and I was like, I don't even know what he looks like. I can't see it. I don't know what his face is. I don't even know what a face is. I have face blindness, officer. Yeah, it's a real problem. I'm an anti-white racist. Was the guy white? I couldn't even tell. I'm race blind as well. I'm not only face blind, but also race blind. It could be anybody. I'm just saying. It's a weird situation. I don't see color. And also, I am completely face blind, so.
The West Side. Officers found the 50-year-old insurance executive and father of two collapsed on the sidewalk. Did he have any known enemies or anyone that you've been able to find?
Yeah, the American people.
Even as the leader of a large corporation, Thompson did not have a security team with him. Investigators say they found
a real man of the people. Think about all the jobs this is going to create, though, chat. Trump's America, baby. We got new jobs coming in. These motherfuckers are going to need to get security, like constant 24-hour security. Think about that. God, if I was like a private security guard company, oh my gosh, so many veterans will be hired. I do want everybody to know, yes, Brian Thompson won't see your cruel jokes about him because he's dead, but all of your friends that make millions and millions and millions of dollars off the debts of their customers will. Meanwhile, really interesting time for Blue Cross Blue Shield to come out with some motion. Blue Cross Blue Shield in Connecticut, New York, and Missouri has declared it will no longer pay for anesthesia for the full length of some surgeries. Well, okay then. Just kidding. Blue Cross Blue Shield in Connecticut, New York, and Missouri, as of today, said, never mind, we're not going to do that, actually. They were like, yo, my bad. Hey, my bad. I had a real sudden change of mind, okay? Real change of heart. Kathy Hochul, New York governor, said, we pushed Anthem to reverse course, and today we'll be announcing a full reversal of the misguided policy. Last night, I shared my outrage at a plan from Anthem to strip away coverage from New Yorkers who had to go under anesthesia for surgery. We pushed Anthem to reverse course, and today they will be announcing a full reversal of this misguided policy. Don't mess with the health and well-being of New Yorkers, not on my watch. Kathy Hochul's so funny. Like, did you Did you shoot the CEO? You can't take credit for that. You're literally using your police forces to hunt down this person right now. You mean? NYPD response getting cooked on TikTok?
Yo, the billionaire who got shot, that was not funny. The police's response to that was hilarious. If you don't know what happened, there was a billionaire who got like assassinated today at like 7 in the morning. And the NYPD has been on the news all morning talking about like the footage, and they keep gassing up this guy. Every clip of the NYPD talking about this hitman is like, yo, he was nice. He was nice. He had to be a professional. If he wasn't a professional, he should have gone pro. His form was immaculate. You see the way he reloaded it when it jammed? Come on. Honestly, I've got my boys back in the station studying his form. This dude was elite. Used the silencer and got away on a city bike. Come on now. This dude is incredible. He might have been Jason Bourne.
He's not kidding. That's literally every morning news show with a retired detective on basically had this. They were glazing, which, by the way, I wouldn't even say glaze. It's like LeBron, okay? It's like LeBron James. Like, is it glaze or is it valid? The question comes to mind. And I feel like the expertise that this guy demonstrated, I don't think it's glazing. I think it's valid. I don't think it's glaze. I think it's valid. Imagine planning and executing the murder of a CEO in public in the biggest city in America, getting away with it, then going online and seeing a bunch of Reddit experts explaining how you're not a professional hitman. Yeah, I think a lot of people are haters, dude. I think people are just straight hating on my man. It's like, have you had a situation like that? I don't think so. I mean, straight up. Look. This statement in and of itself is not celebrating this heinous act, okay? This wrong act. You understand me? I would never do such a thing. You can't catch me slipping today. Do you understand? You cannot catch me slipping today. But also, I mean, was clean. It was clean. Like, everybody's like, oh, well, he shot him in the leg first. Like, bitch, who cares? What do you mean? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that he was apprehended after unsuccessfully assassinating a CEO, because it seems like he was successful. I do not condone. I condemn. I'm just looking simply at the facts of the matter.
That is the funniest part of it. Like, even after all of this, the police are on the hunt for a hitman, and they still got to be like, yo, this dude's game is incredible. Game respects game.
Anyone know where I can find the full video of the assassination? Brother, are you kidding me? Where can't you find it? I think I've watched it like 700 times since it happened. And I was like looking away. I was like, oh, I can't see this. This sucks. I hate seeing this. This is really up. That's what I said. I was doing this the whole time whenever I would see it on accident, because my timeline was just literally all that. I would do this the whole time, dude. All the way to Oxford from London. 2 whole hours in the car. I'm going this is what I'm doing. My mom and dad are like, what's wrong, son? What's happening? I'm like, the shame, the horror. I just, you hate to see it. New camera footage. Oh yeah. Also, I don't know if this is the actual guy. You know, even from the first photo where you can kind of see his face, like, he looks hot. I know it's a different fit. They think it's the same guy. He's just wearing a different fit. I do think that I do not trust the New York Police Department. I think what's best is to take a step back at moments like this. The police, let me tell you something. As you guys know, I love the police, okay? And as the #1 defender of police, I think they have a lot going on. They have too much on their plate. So I think this is one of those instances where, given the limitations that they have with the job, which is a very difficult job, okay? All those homeless people that are, sitting on the sidewalk, unkicked, black teenagers frolicking about, unharassed. I mean, think about so many people that the police have to deal with on a daily basis. Maybe they should take a break. The blue flu. I'm just saying, there are Candy Crush levels that have yet to be tackled. Thin blue line, back the blue. That's all I'm saying. They have a lot going on. And I think, given that they have a lot on their plates, they should just kind of, take their time, figure it out, try to really reconsider. Anyway, let's keep going.
Shell casings with writing on them, including the words deny, defend, and depose. They also say they found a cell phone, granola bar wrappers, and a water bottle they believe are linked to the shooter.
See, now that could be anybody's cell phone. That could be anybody's granola. Dropped my cell phone on the side of a crowded street and just kind of left it behind. Sometimes we have busy days.
Face an assassination-style killing coming at the height of the holiday season while New York is packed with tourists for the nearby lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. The NYPD increased patrols and security in the subways.
You know, day to day in New York is really scary. And I think that
This is such a funny take from like a random person because it's such a very clearly deliberate targeted attack. Dog, I don't think they're going to kill you, okay? Like, what do you mean? Like, you know who should be scared in this process? Like other healthcare CEOs. If I'm a healthcare CEO and I hear about this, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I am hiring the maximum security, okay? I'm hiring dudes that only did war crimes, okay? Blackwater mercenaries, but exclusively the ones that did the most amount of war crimes. I need just like the most roided up brigade around me 24/7. This guy, you're like a desk jockey analyst, okay? At some random corporation. Like, I don't think anybody's coming after you, dog. Like, it's not like if it was a mass shooting or something, like, yeah, that makes sense. You're like, oh man, America's so violent. Like, people randomly die in the streets. It's crazy. Like, this wasn't random, you know?
That could be another clue toward motive. To take the time to actually write on the shell casings indicates not only premeditation, but also a deeply personal type killing. And those words, deny, depose, defend, those are words often associated with the insurance industry. Robin?
All right, our thanks to you, Aaron.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like, I already said this earlier, but if they catch this dude and he says his piece and he's hot, things will change. It feels like a real Shinzo Abe situation. Straight up. Like, this dude will be a god if they catch him.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show.
They still haven't called that guy?
Minute.
They'll get him. They'll find him. Find his ass.
I'm standing in front of the headquarters of a company that manages $10.6 trillion. That's more than half the United States GDP. Last time, I covered the shady consulting group McKinsey, and you guys asked for one thing. BlackRock. So here we are. BlackRock is the subject of a lot of speculation online.
There is a robot that controls more wealth than any country on earth.
Really, the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink.
They have stock in 95% of Fortune 500 companies, and they've been hired by governments across the world to help manage financial crises and even just conduct normal operations. That means that pretty much any time you interact with the economy, working, buying stuff, driving a car, going to the bank, anything, you're interacting with BlackRock. But that $10.6 trillion isn't really their money. Don't worry, we'll come back to that. And they claim they're just passive investors, which seems harmless, right? While I love a good conspiracy, and I know there was a cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom logo, how much of a conspiracy is this really? I wanted to get to the truth behind BlackRock and the other nearly identical asset managers, State Street and Vanguard, known as the Big Three. Are they actively controlling the world and shaping it in their favor? Or are they passive investors just riding the wave of American economic expansion? Stay with me. We'll get to the spooky stuff soon, but first let's talk through some finance basics that give BlackRock their power. What an asset manager actually does, the main product they provide, index funds, their favorite loophole, passivity, and their position in our economy, the not at all terrifying sounding universal ownership. BlackRock is an asset manager, and the service they offer is taking a customer's money and making more money out of it. Their existence relies upon an important invention of the 70s.
This one, I bet it's only $119.
More exciting, the index fund. It was pioneered by the first CEO of Vanguard, and it offers investors a way to invest in many stocks at once. So instead of betting a lot on a few individual companies, you bet a little bit on every company in the whole index, basically just the whole market itself.
The index at least steers a steady course.
It's like instead of betting on a single horse, you're betting on all the horses at once. And index funds are a form of mutual fund, the more general way people pool their money together to make big investments. But someone needs to be the one to pool all that money together and manage it, and that's an asset manager, i.e. BlackRock. Index funds and ETFs are their main products, and they're pretty similar. They're popular because they're lower risk, have more consistent returns, and are cheaper for asset managers because they don't have to pay a guy to place bets all day, which studies show they are not very good at.
Just ignore the folly of short-term speculation. It's absolutely a loser's game.
So if the market is up 7% today, so is your index fund. Instead of constantly buying and selling shares, which is what active investors do, BlackRock and these big asset managers buy a little bit of every company and just hold on to those shares basically indefinitely. This is called passive investing, a title that affords them a lot of legal leeway they otherwise wouldn't get. They own so much that it would be impossible for them to sell out of any one stock in one fell swoop.
When you think about passive, we can't sell a company as long as they're in the index.
Most of the money asset managers manage comes from institutional investors. Those are big pension funds, insurance companies, nonprofits, and university endowments. But while all the money they manage is in the hands of these big institutions, most of it actually comes from regular people. Public and private pension plans, 401k owners, college tuition, and anyone with insurance. This is your money, but it doesn't always come back to you. Nor do you get a say in the companies it gets invested in. While they want good returns on those investments, contrary to how we think about Wolf of Wall Street type investors, that's not actually their main goal. They make their profits from the fees they charge their clients, not from the returns on the money they invest. I spoke with Benjamin Braun, a professor of political economy at the London School of Economics. He's written a bunch of studies on asset managers' role in our economy and society.
The fees you earn if you're BlackRock increase when the market value of the assets you manage increases. You maximize your assets under management by winning over new clients and by getting the clients that you already have to give you more money.
When you have $10 trillion, you have to put them somewhere, and eventually that somewhere becomes everywhere.
Universal ownership refers to holding shares in the entire universe of firms listed on the stock market. The big three asset managers, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, hold a sizable but still relatively small stake in all listed corporations.
BlackRock is a 3 to 10% shareholder in all of these companies. This may not sound like a lot, but it's enough that selling all of it at once would likely crash that entire stock, kind of locking them into the whole not selling passive thing.
5% in any individual company is actually very significant because if and when shareholdership is dispersed, 5% makes you, in all likelihood, the single largest shareholder in that company. That's why, for example, in a lot of academic studies, 5% is taken as a threshold for control. There's almost no difference between Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and even a bunch of other asset managers in terms of their business model. So then you can start and wonder, okay, so if the big three together hold 25% of the shares in any individual company, then you're definitely above the threshold.
Let's zoom in on Amazon. The big three own 16% of all outstanding Amazon shares. Jeff Bezos only owns 9%.
In theory, universal owners should have an interest in maximizing profits in the long term across the entire economy. And that is not how they operate in practice.
The amount of stock you have determines the number of votes you get. BlackRock is almost always in the top 3, maybe 5 if they're feeling broke. So that is a lot of votes. And let's not forget, it's not BlackRock's money that's invested. It's your dad's pension fund and your insurer's massive pile of savings. It sounds crazy, but when you put your money in a pension fund, you sign away your voting rights to the pension fund manager. And then when the pension fund manager puts all their pension funds under an asset manager's control, they sign away all those votes to the asset manager. Kind of pyramid scheme vibes. And how do they actually use those votes? A 2017 study found that asset managers almost always voted with what the company executives recommended. And why are they always voting with company management? Back in the 80s, company managers used to spend company money on company things, like corporate jets, fancy offices, or occasionally paying their employees. And this made the investors sad because they wanted those profits. So they started offering company managers, in addition to bonuses and benefits, stock options. Executives' total pay was now forever tied to how much the company made.
They can push managers, corporate managers, to act more in the interest of shareholders, meaning in the interest of corporate profits, and do more to maximize corporate profits.
This funnels money back to investors who now include management and away from any hope of making companies work better or including employees in the profits that their labor created. Back in the day, like my grandparents' day, more regular people had stocks, and the idea was that every shareholder could vote on things like board elections, mergers and acquisitions, executive compensation, and once in a while, wages. Sort of like democracy for people with disposable income.
Government is the people's business, and every man, woman, and child becomes a shareholder with the first penny of tax paid.
In 1945, 94% of stocks were owned by households, but that's not really how it works anymore. Today, households have more like 40% of the stock market, and about half of that belongs to the top 10%.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Today, the top 1% own 50% of corporate equity and mutual fund shares, while the top 10% own 86%. Did you think this yellow part was everyone else? Nope. The tiny green part on the bottom is the least wealthy half of Americans.
You often hear this argument that what is good for shareholders is good for everyone because, especially in the US, where retirement assets are overwhelmingly invested in corporate equities, everyone is a shareholder. But that's simply not true. The bottom 50% virtually owns no shares at all. The vast majority of shares are held by the top 10%. And within that, even shareholdings are quite concentrated within the top 1%.
And while the strategies corporations choose because asset managers vote for them affect everyone, they only benefit half the population even a little bit and frequently hurt the other half, those without any shares at all. Take the example of worker pay. BlackRock and other asset managers play a huge part in wage stagnation.
If you're a corporation, you can increase profits only in so many ways, and you can always, in the short term, increase returns to shareholders by squeezing workers.
So this kind of uber monopolization really hurts working people, consumers, and even small businesses. And this is where it gets interesting. There's evidence that this type of universal ownership is in part responsible for why everything is so expensive these days. For example, they have significant stakes in Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, and Under Armour. If one outperforms the other, it's the same from BlackRock's point of view, and sometimes it can even lose investors' money altogether if companies were to start lowering prices to compete.
That's the universal ownership logic in action, but it's also an anti-competitive logic in action. The fact that all 5 airlines, all the major banks, for example, in the US have the same large shareholders creates a danger and a risk that these corporations will not engage in competition in the same way they would if they each had different shareholders. Because in that world, each shareholder would root for their company and would hope to outperform the market by the company they waged a bet on.
It's sort of like a neo-monopoly where companies don't even have to merge and buy each other anymore because they all send profits to the same guys no matter what. And their large stakes in basically every company affords them friends in high places. From just 2014 to 2015, BlackRock performed over 1,500 private engagements with the companies held in their portfolio. BlackRock reportedly believes that meetings behind closed doors can go further than votes against management, and they typically give management a year before voting against them. They also have a lot of friends in the government. There's a sort of revolving door between BlackRock, the government, and the international bodies that create monetary policy. Things like the US Treasury, Federal Reserve, the central banks of Canada, some European countries, and Sweden, as well as the International Monetary Fund and the World Economic Forum. Since 2004, BlackRock has hired at least 84 former government officials, regulators, and central bankers worldwide.
The intersection of politics and business has never been more ongoing.
Larry Fink himself is on the board of the WEF and even tried to get himself selected as Hillary Clinton's Treasury Secretary in 2016. And in 2008, they got themselves a pretty sweet deal.
Traders saying this is the craziest day they have ever seen in these markets. Veteran traders saying they've never seen anything like it.
In the aftermath, the government created the Financial Stability Oversight Council to oversee entities like BlackRock that control a lot of money but aren't banks. The FSOC pointed to BlackRock as an organization that's so big that its failure could cause another collapse, and tried to put additional oversight on them. But BlackRock doubled their political lobbying spending, including running a super targeted ad campaign on the DC Metro, and managed to dodge the oversight that other large financial institutions receive. And let's come back to that loophole they like to call passivity. The people who decide if they're passive enough to continue not to be overseen by the government is BlackRock themselves. Basically, BlackRock and other asset managers have to submit annual letters to self-certify that they've been compliant with the terms of passive investment. That's like being allowed to write whatever you want on your taxes and then audit yourself. Except if you also had $10 trillion, which, unless you're watching this and you're literally Larry Fink, hey bestie, I'm gonna safely assume you don't. The part that really blows my mind is that while this one company already has their eggs in basically every basket and is making money off seemingly everyone, it goes even deeper than that. The biggest investors in BlackRock are Vanguard and State Street. And the biggest investors in Vanguard are BlackRock and State Street. And the biggest investors in State Street are, you guessed it, BlackRock and Vanguard.
Asset managers are the shareholders of asset managers. And this is true for all financial firms, and not only, in fact, for stock market listed firms, but private equity firms buying up private insurers.
So the financial sector effectively owns itself. The biggest companies that they own them back, creating this loop that sucks money in and never seems to spit it back out. They play all sides of the game because at a certain point, you can't lose when you play against yourself. So going back to our original questions, does BlackRock own everything? No. But do they control everything? Kinda. They profit off of every bit of your life while controlling just the minimum amount they need to make sure they can continue profiting off of every bit of your life. And they get paid by teachers' retirement funds to do it. And they get away with this by constantly exchanging money for power and utilizing legal loopholes. It's worth being pedantic here for a second. They don't own everything. They own shares in everything, which gives them an outsized amount of control. So while they're not necessarily the ones making all the nitty-gritty decisions in every company, it is their influence and this giant structure of universal ownership that continues to make their pie bigger and ours smaller. It's the ultimate endgame of the Investor Management Alliance. Remember the part about how they're responsible for reporting their own passivity to the government? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the FDIC are working to change that and make it so that asset managers that own large chunks of banks like BlackRock are regulated like banks. The asset managers, of course, are not happy, and they are lobbying against this. So regulating them much further is going to prove difficult, and this is a solution to one part of a much larger problem. We no longer have the old system of shareholder democracy. We have something more like a shareholder oligarchy where the people with the most power over where our money and stuff goes are incentivized to make that stuff worse and more expensive and not work for us. But BlackRock didn't create this system, they just used it to their advantage. And I think we deserve a better one, where the people who create the wealth have a say in where it goes. Thanks for watching The Classroom, where controlling the world is important to us. Send us your next favorite conspiracy.
Well, that's too bad, because it's not going to happen. You're owned by BlackRock. Deal with it. Deal with it, boy.
I'm entering the global headquarters of one of the most influential companies in the world. But you probably wouldn't know that, because hiding in plain sight is kind of their thing.
Keep snooping around, you're going to prison. Go find the video.
Adolf Hitler is giving a speech in a beer hall in Munich. Right behind him in the column, a bomb has been hidden away, and it is about to go off. The German carpenter and Nazi opponent Georg Elser has planned this moment for months. He knew Hitler would be here tonight. He knew when exactly the Führer would give a speech. Elser installed explosives with a time fuse. At exactly 9:20 p.m., his bomb is supposed to detonate. The explosion causes the entire ceiling above the podium to collapse. 63 people get injured, 8 die. But Hitler isn't one of them. He left the beer hall earlier than expected at 9:07 p.m. Georg Elser failed. But this was just one of many attempts to assassinate Hitler. One of almost 40. Today we take a look at some of the most spectacular plans to rid the world of the Nazi leader. Why did they all fail? How did he keep getting away? Was Hitler just that lucky? Or was there more to it? This is Henning von Tresckow, a first general staff officer in the Wehrmacht. At first, he's a supporter of Hitler when he seizes power in 1933. But that will soon change. Tresco's turning point comes in 1941, when Germany attacks the Soviet Union. He thinks Hitler's invasion is military madness. He thinks they will lose the war. But Tresco also has moral concerns. He knows about the mass murder of Jewish people. He knows what the regime is doing. A resolve forms within him. He's convinced that this mad dictator must be stopped at all cost. And in spring of 1943, Tresco makes his move. He manages to persuade his commander-in-chief Günther von Kluge to invite Hitler to Smolensk in the Soviet Union. Here, Tresco is stationed, and the Führer agrees. On March the 13th, 1943, he makes a stopover in Smolensk on his flight from Vinnytsia to his headquarters in East Prussia. At lunch, Tresco asks Lieutenant Colonel Heinz Brandt, who is traveling with Hitler on the plane, for a favor. Brandt is to deliver a package containing 2 bottles of Control cognac to a friend of Tresco's in East Prussia. Tresco tells him that he lost a bet. Instead of 2 bottles of alcohol, however, the package contains a bomb with a detonator. Tresco wants to feign an airplane accident. His co-conspirator Fabian von Schlabrendorf secretly activates the time pencil and then hands the package to Brandt. The plane takes off at around 3 p.m. On board are Hitler, Brandt, and the bomb. The bomb is supposed to explode within an hour. Schlabrendorf set the timer by crushing a glass vial filled with a corrosive liquid in the time pencil. The airplane should crash at about the height of Minsk. But Hitler lands in his headquarters unscathed. Brandt had packed the package in the cold cargo hold. The acid detonator had frozen. Tresco immediately calls Heinz Brandt and tells him that he accidentally gave him the wrong package. The next day, Schlabrendorf flies to East Prussia, exchanges the package with 2 bottles of cognac, and defuses the bomb. Producing videos like this one takes a lot of time, and we actually deal with math and science quite a bit while building 3D scenes. A great way to approach such challenging subjects is Brilliant. Brilliant is a platform that helps you learn new skills across various subjects like math, programming, and artificial intelligence. With thousands of interactive lessons, you can customize the content to fit your needs and work through exercises at your own pace. For example, Brilliant offers a course on probability. You will learn the basics and how to make predictions using probability theory. If that's not your cup of tea, there's a vast library of other topics. New lessons are added every month. If you want to check out Brilliant, you can get started today. Scan this QR code or visit brilliant.org/fern and try it for free for a full 30 days. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. The link is in the description. Tresco's assassination attempt failed, but he didn't get caught either. In fact, he was part of a sworn circle of military resistance fighters determined to kill Hitler, and they were far from giving up. A key figure in the group was Lieutenant Colonel Klaus Schenk Graf von Stauffenberg. Over the years, he became the head of the military conspiracy. Tresco and Stauffenberg were close companions, and they were always looking for a new opportunity to eliminate the Führer. They didn't have to wait for long. Fast forward 9 months. This is Axel Freiherr von dem Busche. He's an officer, almost 2 meters tall, blonde, and has blue eyes. He truly embodies the Nazi ideal. This appearance is supposed to provide him with the perfect opportunity to kill Hitler. Von dem Busche and a group of other soldiers are to present the new Wehrmachtsuniform to Hitler at his headquarters. Von dem Busche plans to use a hidden British hand grenade to blow himself up along with the dictator. But then in Berlin, a railroad wagon is destroyed by an Allied bomb. It contained the new uniforms. No uniforms, no presentation. The meeting is postponed. By then, von dem Busche isn't an option anymore. Just 1 month earlier, he was seriously wounded. One of his legs had to be amputated. Instead, Stauffenberg now wants the 21-year-old Lieutenant Ewald Heinrich von Kleist to trade his life for Hitler's death. The young lieutenant takes his time to think about it and agrees. Von Kleist is ready to do the job and prepares. But Hitler cancels the appointment on short notice. On July 7, 1944, the presentation of the new Wehrmacht uniforms finally takes place at a castle near Salzburg. This time, Major General Helmut Stief is chosen as the assassin. He too is part of the resistance group. The odds of success are extremely high. An explosion at that distance is nearly unsurvivable. It's the perfect opportunity. Then, at the last minute, Stief hesitates and backs out. Sure, he wants to see Hitler dead, but he isn't willing to sacrifice his life for it. Yet, the group around Stauffenberg doesn't give up. They plan a new attack. This time, Stauffenberg wants to do it himself. He aims not only to kill Hitler, but also to bring down the entire Nazi regime in one coordinated strike. In the early morning of July 20, 1944, Stauffenberg and First Lieutenant Werner von Haeften fly from Berlin to the Führer's headquarters. Stauffenberg is to report on the Eastern Front at a meeting with Hitler. It presents the perfect opportunity for Stauffenberg. He plans to arm 2 bombs in his briefcase, place it near Hitler during the meeting, and leave the room before the bombs go off. Then he plans to fly back to Berlin, where he and other resistance fighters plan to take over power after Hitler's death. At the Führer's headquarters, Stauffenberg learns that the time of the meeting has been changed. Due to a visit of the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, it is moved forward by half an hour. At around 12:15, Stauffenberg pretends to want to change his shirt. Together with Haeften, he wants to secretly activate the time fuse for the bomb before the meeting begins. But they get interrupted and told to hurry not to be late for the meeting. Therefore, they can only arm 1 of the 2 explosives. So Stauffenberg doesn't pack the second one and leaves it with Haeften. He then enters the meeting. He puts his briefcase down near his target at the end of the table. Hitler and the bomb are now separated by only about 1.3 meters. Stauffenberg gives his report and then immediately leaves the room, supposedly to make an important phone call. Everything is going according to plan. A few minutes later, Hitler leans over the table to further discuss war strategy, and the bomb detonates. Stauffenberg watches the explosion from 200 meters away and is certain. Hitler is finally dead. He flies back to Berlin with Haeften to continue Operation Valkyrie. They plan to blame the SS and the Gestapo for Hitler's death. Then they want to take power and put an end to the Nazi dictatorship. But Operation Valkyrie failed. In the meeting room, the pressure wave caused the ceiling to collapse, and there's now a gaping hole in the floor where the briefcase once stood. The loud explosion ruptured the eardrums of almost everyone present. 4 people die, almost all of the others are injured. Only 2 people got off lightly. One of them is Adolf Hitler. The fact that Hitler leaned over the table during the explosion saved his life. He was only thrown slightly upwards by the force of the explosion. If Stauffenberg had also placed a second bomb in his briefcase, the explosion probably also would have killed Hitler. With the failed assassination attempt on Hitler, the planned coup to end the Nazi regime also fails only a few hours later. Stauffenberg and the 3 other main plotters are shot that very night in the courtyard of the Blender block. Those are the headquarters of the General Army Office, and it was the heart of military resistance. 200 other co-conspirators also get executed. It is the last known attempt to assassinate Hitler. On April the 30th, 1945, Hitler committed in the Führerbunker in Berlin. Why did Hitler survive again and again? In old photos and video recordings, we almost always see Hitler walking around alone. That was part of his image as an invincible, untouchable dictator. But in reality, Hitler had made many precautions to protect himself. He had many highly trained bodyguards. A special security service checked all routes and locations meticulously before Hitler arrived. His whereabouts were top secret. He was always well protected when he traveled by train, car, or plane. He had his own pilot and cook. He always had his meals tasted by his personal doctor before he started eating, all to minimize the risk of an assassination. Besides these security precautions, Hitler pursued a special tactic. He allegedly once said, "Das einzige Gegenmittel ist ein unstetes Leben," which means the only antidote is an unsteady life. He often changed his routes, cancelled trips at short notice, came earlier to meetings than planned, or left events earlier than expected. We don't know if and how a successful assassination would have changed Germany's history. What would have happened if Hitler had just stayed 13 minutes longer in the beer hall in 1939? Could millions of Jews have been saved if one of almost 40 recorded attempts would have succeeded? Or would someone else in the regime simply have taken his place? We will never know.
We'll never know. Anything else? Anything else you'd like me to watch? Anything else? Thing. Oh shit. No, he's. I'll be here when you're ready. Well, now what?
Now, we've always had this ability since the 1940s to interfere in the domestic affairs of foreign governments or foreign countries, to topple communist countries. This was the whole Cold War counter-communism work of the CIA and the State Department. But that was primarily targeting left-wing communists or left-wing socialists or left-wing populist-run countries. When Trump won the election in 2016, this is one of the reasons I think Republicans were so slow to move on all this. They had never experienced the brunt of the intelligence state against the mainline GOP, or at least the in-power Trump faction of the GOP, in the way that Democrats did in the 1960s and 70s, when the CIA was actively interfering in Democrat Party politics to try to tilt them away from the anti-Vietnam movement and more into the sort of limousine liberal international interventionalist neoliberal camp. And so in 2016, the Global Engagement Center pivoted from being counterterrorism to counterpopulism, arguing that right-wing populist governments, it wasn't just right-wing, they were also against left-wing populists, but they simply never rose to power in the way that Trump did in the U.S., Bolsonaro did in Brazil, Matteo Salvini did in Italy, Marine Le Pen almost did in France, Nigel Farage was on his way to in the UK and the Brexit referendum, the AfD party in Germany, the Vox party in Spain. In 2016, they were afraid that social media, rising all of these right-wing populist parties to power, would effectively collapse the entire rules-based international order unless there was international censorship, because Brexit would give rise to Frexit if Marine Le Pen won, and she was massively overpowered on social media versus Macron. If, as I mentioned, Italy, Germany, there was going to be not just Brexit, there's going to be Frexit, Spexit, Italexit, Grexit, Gorexit. So the entire EU would come undone, which would mean all of NATO would come undone, which would mean there's no enforcement arm for the IMF or the World Bank or international creditors, which would mean it would be like the ending scene of Fight Club, where the credit card company buildings all collapse just because you're allowed to shitpost on the internet. And they talked about that quite openly in 2017 as they were creating this whole censorship infrastructure.
So the 2016 elections was a counterpoint. That was like a turning point. That was a moment where they realized, like, this is actually dangerous. Like, allowing people to freely communicate online and say whatever they want completely undermines the propaganda that they have been distributing. It completely undermines their ability to control who's the president, what policies get pursued, things along those lines.
Yeah, it was the final straw, because the 2014 Crimea situation is the Pentagon was actively working with and funding these censorship operations through the entirety of Central and Eastern Europe starting in 2014. And then Brexit was a major event in that. Basically, it was said to come to Western Europe at that point. But when Trump won, that was, I guess, both the final straw and then the massive anvil that collapsed any residual resistance that existed within the national security state that we didn't need to do this. And Russiagate really was the useful tool to drive that all through. The fact that Trump came into office under the barrel of a gun of a special prosecutor, openly alleging that he may be a Russian asset, effectively a Manchurian candidate of Russia, who only rose to power because of social media operations being run by Russia, allowed that national security predicate to carry forward this infrastructure and be massively funded by the Pentagon, the State Department, the IC, the NGO sphere, in order to set up this infrastructure. But then in July 2019, Russiagate died on the vine immediately, as soon as Bob Mueller completely goofed his 3-hour testimony. And a lot of people were thinking before he took the stand that Trump was going to be in jail as a Russian asset because it was kept under such close hold for 2.5 years.
Right.
What was Bob Mueller doing? There was the SNL sort of fanfare around that. But then when it was revealed he had nothing, there was a moment in time between July 2019 and September 2019 when all of this could have been shut down, and we could have just called all that censorship work counterintelligence, a national security state thing. But they did something really, really nasty at that point, which we now live in the permanent aftermath of, which is they switched from a sort of counterintelligence, national security threat from Russian interference predicate, which is useful because that gives you a blank check to use the Pentagon and the State Department and the IC on this, to a domestic democracy predicate. Now, this is really, really nasty because it basically transitions censorship from being a strictly military thing that we're doing to stop Russia to being a total permeating apparatus over all civilian domestic affairs, regardless of whether there's a foreign threat. And when that was allowed to go unchallenged for effectively 3 years, up until Elon announced the acquisition of X, and that same month the Disinformation Governance Board spilled over, and then Republicans won the House in November 2022, which then allowed congressional hearings on all of this and the elevation of the Twitter files and the public awareness from that. But for 3 years, you had this handoff from Russiagate. I call this the foreign to domestic switcheroo. And if you're interested, Jamie, if you look up, I'm not asking you to, but if you're curious, I have a whole supercut of what these people were saying from 2016 to 2018, while the Russiagate investigation was going on, to 2019, 2020, after Russiagate, they do this foreign to domestic switcheroo. Those are the key terms if you're interested in it.
There's a compilation.
Yeah,
video?
I did a compilation of all these DHS officials, State Department officials, Pentagon officials, completely changing their justification for why we need internet censorship before Russiagate and after Russiagate. And they switched from saying Russian disinformation is the threat, so that's why the Pentagon's involved, that's why the state and CIA and FBI is involved, to saying, well, actually, domestic disinformation is a threat to democracy. So regardless of whether it's the Russians or not, we need to censor Americans to preserve democracy. And this happened in tandem with...
What examples were they using to justify this?
Well, they pulled off a cute trick where they doctrinally redefined democracy to mean a consensus of institutions rather than individuals. They had, when Trump won in 2016 and Brexit passed in 2016 they took this anti-authoritarian toolkit, which has for 80 years been the CIA's predicate for overthrowing governments. And really since the 1910s, when Woodrow Wilson announced that America's role is to make the world safe for democracy, we've long had a habit of intervening in foreign countries in order to liberate people from authoritarian control and bring them the gift of democracy.
It's over, Climb. Going to jail for your evil ways. You're not going to get away with it.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Speaking of which, how about that president? How about that Trump fella? How crazy is this? If there's ever been a real indication that we're in a simulation, it's like this season of USA is the craziest season that's ever existed. There's so many twists and turns, so many plots, so many villains, so many incompetent, bumbling fools that you're like, there's no way that lady's a heartbeat away from the president. There's no way. There's no way someone is not telling her to stop saying that same thing over and over again. What can be unburdened by what has been? Like, she just says it over and over and over again. This isn't real. This is writing. Someone wrote this. It seems like a script.
When a president that is giving a speech gets shot in the ear and then stands up and goes full John Bender at the end of Breakfast Club.
Bro, he pumps his fist in the air.
That was a crazy
and says, fight, fight, fight. And when the fucking guy who's the photographer is a wizard, that guy who got that photograph, find out his name, because this guy's award-winning photographer.
With the flag above it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the angle that he got it, like where he was standing when he took the photo. It's one of the most iconic photos of all time.
He had a GoPro on it while he was doing it. So you
Wow.
can watch him move in position of take it.
Wow, that's nuts, man. That's nuts. So you could see as the bullets start flying, this fucking dude doesn't even duck. He's still got his camera out. He's right behind Trump, and he's just got his camera out. That is so gangster. I mean, you want to talk about getting a shot no matter what? He's running around. There could be bullets flying his way.
I would think you're holding up something black in your hand that's pointed at the president.
Crazy.
You fucking should get shot.
I mean, the Trump story is right out of a movie. And I'm hoping it's not a Stephen King movie.
This came out while we've been recording.
Secret Service ramped up security after receiving intel of an Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. No known connection to shooting. Oh, they ramped that up, and so they ignored.
Nah, he's from Qatar. That's where he's from. Oh, now what? I'll give you 60 grand if you get that motherfucker and tell him where he's at. Did we learn about what was on Bin Laden's hard drive?
May 1st, 2011, Abbottabad, Pakistan. This compound is large, but it's nothing fancy. Inside, you'll find dozens of chickens, some vegetable patches, a cow, and the world's most wanted man. Only a handful of people know that Osama bin Laden and 16 members of his family have been living here for the past 5 years. They've taken great care to be as self-sufficient and under the radar as possible. They're a tight-knit family, and every night they have intense debates about the future of Al-Qaeda, especially lately. Like always, bin Laden goes to bed with one of his 4 wives. Tonight, it's the youngest, Amal. They're fast asleep, cuddling their 3-year-old son, when they're startled around 1 a.m. Is that a storm? Amal reaches to switch on a lamp, but bin Laden stops her. He knows this sound. It's not a storm, it's helicopters. Bin Laden panics. The Americans are here. They found him. He's forgotten to load his AK. This won't end well for him. And another realization sets in. They're going to find his hard drives. 3 terabytes of Al-Qaeda's secrets. Nothing could be worse. He'd rather be captured and killed than to have this data exposed. Before we begin, for more background, we would like to recommend these fantastic short docs by our colleague and friend Neo on how bin Laden was found. Also, this video is largely based on the book The Bin Laden Papers by Nellie Lahoud. Links are in the description. Now, let's dive into the incredible story behind these hard drives.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
When the U.S. Navy SEALs raided Abbottabad to capture bin Laden, they were supposed to stay for only 30 minutes or less. Most successful missions take no longer, and any delay would amplify the danger. But when they spot, quote, a shit ton of computers in the compound, the potential intelligence value is too tempting. They deviate from the plan to return ASAP. They gather up the electronics and deliver them to the CIA. Sifting through the files is a gargantuan task. Every Arabic-speaking linguist in the intelligence community is on the job. There's lots of normal stuff you might find on just about anyone's computer. Home videos, news clippings, memes. Excessive amounts of pornography. Then there is the expected terrorist content, Al-Qaeda propaganda, and so on. But that's not the interesting part. On these hard drives, U.S. intelligence discovers a treasure trove of letters. The bulk of Al-Qaeda's communications were typed or handwritten, then transmitted by couriers on a SIM card. For security reasons, bin Laden did not have internet access the whole time he was in hiding. The letters were exchanged through what Al-Qaeda called a closed circle. A courier moved between 2 intermediaries, one on bin Laden's side and one on the side of his trusted associate in North Waziristan, a mountainous part of Pakistan bordering Afghanistan. Security measures were so stringent that the courier did not know about the letters he was transmitting, and bin Laden never met him or knew who he actually was. Using couriers was cumbersome and dangerous, but it worked. For 10 years, bin Laden successfully remained hidden, and the world was in the dark when it came to Al-Qaeda. Until, of course. We rely heavily on high-powered computers to produce these videos, but sometimes we might just want to work in a cafe or abroad or on the beach even. We can't take our giant desktops with us, but there is another, much cleaner solution. AnyDesk is a lightning-fast, secure, and reliable access software for seamless remote work and file sharing. It's free for personal use and supports remote video editing, 3D printing, CMS monitoring, and much more. It's easy to use for even the least tech-savvy, but powerful enough for advanced use like remote server maintenance. The clean interface makes AnyDesk a breeze for anyone to use. It's available for all platforms, from your laptop to your phone, all the way to your grandmother's Windows XP machine.
Yeah, I've seen that, guys.
If you're looking to collaborate remotely and need something fast and flexible, check it out at anydesk.com/fern. We really do use AnyDesk regularly and can highly recommend it. Upon discovery of the hard drives, the CIA got straight to work extracting the immediate intelligence gains. What they found, they acted upon quickly. For example, The files helped him locate al-Qaeda's chief operations officer in Pakistan's tribal regions. They killed him by a drone strike within 4 months of the Abbottabad raid. Al-Qaeda's top legal scholar was found and killed shortly after. But after these quick results, many of al-Qaeda's secrets remained buried on these hard drives, coded in the countless letters. It would take years to grasp the content of all these communications, and help came from outside the CIA.
And what I wanted to do was actually to chronicle al-Qaeda's history post 9/11. And I wanted to do it through the letters. Not through secondary sources, but through the letters.
This is Dr. Nellie Lahoud. She studies the evolving ideologies of al-Qaeda and ISIS, and she led a team that analyzed and contextualized the contents of bin Laden's papers.
The declassification process began in 2012, and by 2017, the declassified files were massive. At one point, I came to realize this is where I was going to find al-Qaeda's internal communications. And these were about 97,000 files. I was fortunate that I was able to have the support of 2 research assistants who were native Arabic speakers like me.
Lahoud and her assistants looked at all nearly 100,000 documents, and what they uncovered is astonishing. The letters reveal bin Laden's character and al-Qaeda's inner workings. They lay bare bin Laden's future plans and deepest fears. They help map out the global jihadi landscape, and they offer a definitive account of al-Qaeda's post-9/11 history, which up until then was deeply misunderstood. Tora Bora, which means black dust in Pashto, is a remote and barren part of eastern Afghanistan. Bin Laden loves this region and knows it well. It held a special place in bin Laden's heart since the 1980s, when he made a pilgrimage from Saudi Arabia to assist the Afghan Mujahideen in the holy cause of fighting the Soviets. He helped fund the construction of cave complexes in the region and recruited fighters who contributed to the broader resistance movement. The Soviets eventually withdrew, and bin Laden believed his contributions to be decisive. The victorious Afghan Jihad inspired the formation of al-Qaeda, which means the base of an Islamist legion that could wage jihad anywhere. At that time, bin Laden and the Americans were on the same side, both in Tora Bora, supporting the Afghan Mujahideen in resisting a Soviet invasion. Now 14 years later, bin Laden is cowering from them, fleeing into the same mountains that he once used as a stronghold. But the CIA are on his tracks. On December 3rd, 2001, the situation turns grim for al-Qaeda. The Americans start bombing relentlessly. Al-Qaeda members are hiding in caves at 9,000 feet, shivering in 10 degrees below freezing. They have no access to drinking water because it's frozen. The bombs keep raining destruction. Against all odds, bin Laden escapes the US troops, but he's not feeling celebratory. He knows that at any moment he can be killed, so he hastily draws up his will. And in his will, bin Laden writes to his children, "Forgive me, because I have given you only a little of my time since I answered the jihad call. I have chosen a road fraught with dangers, and for this sake suffered from hardships, embitterment, betrayal, and treachery. I advise you not to work with al-Qaeda." It's a low moment for bin Laden, and it's not just because death is around the corner. It's also because he made a horrible mistake, and now he knows it.
What the letters reveal is that al-Qaeda had not anticipated that the United States would launch a war in response to 9/11. At most, they thought that the United States would respond with limited airstrikes.
Al-Qaeda was completely unprepared. They didn't even have a plan A. Bin Laden made a huge miscalculation. He believed the United States was fundamentally weak, a paper tiger with no real bite. Not all jihadis suffered from this delusion. In a council shortly before 9/11, high-level jihadis and Muslim religious authorities warned bin Laden that the Americans would attack the whole Middle East if he launched an attack on US soil. But he waved off their concerns confidently. He was certain that the United States didn't have the resources for a counterattack. Bin Laden's stated purpose of 9/11 was to serve as a decisive blow to force the United States to withdraw its military forces from Muslim-majority countries. Well, quite the opposite happened. Now bin Laden had no choice but to acknowledge the true power of his sworn enemy. Several key al-Qaeda members are already dead, captured or displaced into unfriendly countries. The Taliban, who has been aiding al-Qaeda, has fallen rapidly, but it would take bin Laden years to publicly admit his mistake. For their part, the United States also misunderstood the power of their enemy, but in their case, the opposite was true. They believed al-Qaeda was far more powerful than it actually was. Up until bin Laden's death, al-Qaeda was widely perceived to be the major player in the global jihadi landscape. 9/11 shocked the world, and it was assumed that only a very powerful network could harm the world's greatest superpower in such a devastating manner. Most people believed al-Qaeda was still pulling the strings when it came to other Islamist terrorism. The Madrid and London bombings of 2004 and 2005 were falsely reported to have been orchestrated by the group. And for a while, bin Laden fed that narrative, publicly cheering on jihadis and allowing people to believe that he was calling the shots. Al-Qaeda continued to release public statements, which allowed them to project strength that they did not have. They fed the illusion that the jihadi landscape was a united front. But the papers show that the post-9/11 reality looked quite different.
So when bin Laden disappeared from the scene, we learned that he stopped communicating with his associates for about 3 years. Now, he was watching the news, he was releasing public statements, but he had no knowledge about what was happening in the world of al-Qaeda itself because he was hiding. So between 2004 all the way to 2011, all the letters make it absolutely clear that al-Qaeda did not have the resources and did not have the personnel to mount international terrorism.
Quote-unquote successful jihadis capable of international terrorism were in almost all cases operating independently of al-Qaeda. From the outside, the movement appeared to be united under al-Qaeda, but in reality, the network was riddled with internal divisions. Al-Qaeda was at constant odds with affiliate groups because of differing strategies, power struggles, and serious trust issues. Later letters show that much of al-Qaeda's post-9/11 focus was on managing these tensions. In highly bureaucratic al-Qaeda memos, you can tell that bin Laden's educational background is in business administration and not religious scripture. He's a hands-on boss with a tendency to micromanage, running al-Qaeda like a failing company. He's preoccupied with the competition, with rebranding, with PR scandals, and with potential mergers. He's anxiously trying and failing to control the affiliate groups. He's afraid different strategies are tarnishing the al-Qaeda brand.
These groups ended up focusing their attention locally, and in the process, they mounted many indiscriminate attacks that saw many Muslim casualties, and this upset bin Laden deeply. Many, if not probably all these attacks, were not authorized by bin Laden or the top leadership of al-Qaeda. We find bin Laden and his associates remarkably calling for less terrorism rather than more terrorism out of these groups. But this isn't to kind of paint them as being, peaceful makers. They wanted the attacks of all these groups to be targeting the United States.
The United States' counterterrorism efforts didn't reflect any of this complexity. The Americans believed that al-Qaeda was growing stronger by the day. They were fixated on al-Qaeda as the main threat, pouring a huge amount of resources into finding bin Laden. And just after the 9/11 attacks, the Bush administration passed the authorization for the use of military force. This legislation allowed military force to be used against anyone considered to be associated with the attacks, without requiring explicit approval from Congress. If a jihadist could reasonably be linked with al-Qaeda, then military activities in the region could be pursued more swiftly. Meanwhile, other, more threatening jihadi groups were growing in strength, outside the purview of the Americans' enormous military resources. As a result, in 2014, al-Qaeda was overtaken by a rival jihadist group. A group that was formerly an offshoot, they had broken away, largely due to strategic disagreements. Bin Laden tried and failed to keep that group under control, but after a point, they simply stopped responding to his letters. That group is now known as ISIS. The letters reveal another fascinating delusion of bin Laden, which helps explain why he was ultimately captured. For nearly a decade, bin Laden has been on the run from the US. His entire life and the lives of his family members are focused on evading capture. It pains bin Laden that his family is stuck in hiding. The papers show that he's a caring family man who is intensely worried about the safety and well-being of his loved ones. He might be a mass murderer, but he reads his grandkids' stories every night. It's a tough life in isolation, but his careful security measures have kept him safe. At one point in 2010, bin Laden receives a letter that one of his couriers might have been captured. This would compromise everything.
But instead of really starting to pack his bag, He chose to stay where he did. Why? Bin Laden had a soft spot for his family. At that time, his wife, who was detained in Iran, as well as his son, were released, and they wanted to join him.
So bin Laden's role as a kindly patriarch may have been the reason for his ultimate downfall. He was too wrapped up in his family matters to give the courier threat his full attention. But there was another reason, something completely unexpected. A world historical event. Not he nor the world at large saw it coming. Suddenly, bin Laden's obsession with security took a backseat role because his attention shifted. In December 2010, a wave of uprising thunders throughout the Arab world. People are fed up with corruption, poverty, and authoritarianism. The Arab Spring sends shockwaves through the Middle East and the rest of the world. The initially peaceful protests turn deadly. Governments are overthrown. Civil wars erupt. At first, bin Laden is overjoyed that people are demanding the removal of corrupt dictators, which he and other jihadists have been advocating for years. Bin Laden sees a power vacuum, and he plans to fill it. He's long wanted to instigate regime changes in the Arab world. After all, that was the whole point of September 11. The United States was backing authoritarian regimes in Muslim-majority countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia. The attack was meant to force them to retreat from the region. Then their puppet regimes in the Arab world would fall, and al-Qaeda could swoop in and install Taliban-style utopias. And now the people are overthrowing these regimes themselves. What could be better? Bin Laden and his family are excitedly preparing their response. We know this from a handwritten family journal found during the Abbottabad raid. The journal recorded the conversations of bin Laden's family, leading up to the night before his death. Every day, they're having intense debates about how al-Qaeda should navigate this new reality. There's just one problem. Al-Qaeda isn't exactly at the forefront of the protesters' demands. It seems that many people want democracy, and not a caliphate. And the situation keeps changing rapidly, so strategizing is tricky. In his last few days, bin Laden relies a lot upon his two millennial daughters to formulate a stance. Maryam and Sumaya are 19 and 21 at the time. The journal reveals them to be sharp, passionate, and willing to challenge their father. They ask him the hard questions, like, is it possible that some among the new generation will believe that political change can occur without jihad? After all, the West intervened in support of overthrowing the Libyan dictator and seems generally in favor of the uprisings. Bin Laden is stumped. At points he is almost hopeless in his confusion, one day saying, "We cannot do anything except intensify our prayers." But his daughters push him to make a statement. The political moment is too important to waste.
So the role of his daughters was remarkable, and we find in the letters by various family members that Maryam and Sumaya, to quote one letter, worked very closely with their father, and their writings were broadcast on TV, meaning that it was their work, their writings, that bin Laden had delivered in his public statement over the years. So clearly they were doing the heavy lifting at home. They were all on the same page in terms of their loyalty to jihad, their loyalty to, their commitment rather, to the cause for which bin Laden had spent his life doing. It was a family affair.
At the end of bin Laden's life, the papers reveal a man who is fearful, paranoid, and incapable of materializing most of his plans, large and small. He never achieves another large-scale attack on the United States.
You learn something every day.
Just let me know.
You know? You do. You do.
In the late 19th century, the city of London was the largest in the world.
Oh, man. Now what? I might get off here. Tired. Ooh. Anything before I go? Any words before I go? You fuck, we've been live for 4 hours. That's enough.